right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics. This is the show where every episode we talk about some recent comics from the past week and a half, 2 weeks or so, and we let you know what we thought about them, if we recommend them, or if in the case of Titans number 14 from last week, they're just big old piles of dog shit. This week is stacked. This is very common for the fourth week of the month, but this week there's a shit ton of stuff to get through. Really solid stuff this week. Actually, I would say this is possibly, quality-wise, the best week in terms of comic quality in the history of the show. Maybe not, I'm not sure. I don't remember all the weeks. We've done this quite a few times. This is episode 59 after all. But we got stuff like new issues of Something is Killing the Children, The Sacrifices, we got new issues of Void Rivals, bunch of X-Men stuff, a new Universal Monsters Frankenstein book, The Nice House by the Sea #2, bunch of stuff, but we're going to start out with Aliens vs. Avengers from Marvel Comics, written by Jonathan Hickman, and the artist is Esad Ribic. So here's the thing with this one. First of all, right off the bat, it should not be $8. It's a bit pricey. I get that, like, the Hickman tax is kind of a thing, and that he's one of Marvel's, like, biggest writers, and they want to inflate the price on some of his books because they know that people will buy them, especially with something like this. But still, $8 is kind of ridiculous, especially for 44 pages. Outside of that, when this was announced, I was of a couple minds about this, because on the one hand, right, like, it is inherently, as a nerd, it is cool to have a series where the Avengers fight the Xenomorphs. That's just cool. That's a cool idea. It's fun as a fan to see that, and to kind of, you know, that's why like when you get these like IP kind of big IPs, it's why you see so many like what would happen if Superman fought the Hulk. Like, that stuff is, it's just fun to imagine as fans of these properties. However, at the same time, Marvel knows that, and so the other part of me was quite cynical about this, because it is very clearly, like, regardless of how you look at it, regardless of the quality, regardless of all this other stuff, it is absolutely a cash grab on Marvel's part, particularly with the price point of this issue, but it is absolutely a cash grab on Marvel's part, even if it's great, because they know that this will sell books, and, you know, it is you know, something that they can do to just drum up hype around a book without actually, you know, putting much effort or substance into it. So I was, again, two-minded about that. However, when I saw that the creative team was Jonathan Hickman and Esad Ribic, that did kind of change my opinion on it a little bit, and at least give me some optimism that the series would at least be good. Because Jonathan Hickman, obviously, we've talked about him a lot on the show. He is a very good writer. He has very cool ideas, especially in the sci-fi space. I think he really excels in that area. So that was exciting. And, you know, if he was choosing to do this project, that did make me, it left me more hopeful for where this book was going, despite the fact that it's only 4 issues. Also, Esad Ribic, really great artist as well, like, really fantastic artist. I would say I'm familiar with him from his run on Eternals with Kieran Gillen. I fucking hate the Eternals, but I don't mind that series, and his art is great, and I think that is by far the best Eternal series that we've gotten so far. So going into this issue, I was more optimistic, I would say, than pessimistic, because ultimately, again, the creative team is so strong. And so I would say, largely, I do think this works, although it is, there are parts of it, I think, that work better than others. So, you know, it starts off with, this is set in the far future of presumably an alternate universe, Marvel universe. I highly doubt this is the future of 616. But essentially, it's Black Panther showing up to a Weyland-Yutani ship where they have been experimenting on different alien species in the Marvel universe. So, like, the Skrulls were a huge success, a whole bunch of stuff, just basically experimenting with different alien species in the Marvel universe and how they interacted with xenomorphs, particularly facehuggers and chestbursters, and how kind of viable they were as hosts. The Creed did not work, but the rest did. So Black Panther shows up there along with his son. They kill some xenomorphs, and essentially they find out that Weyland-Yutani has shot a bunch of xenomorph kind of basically egg packages out into the world to a whole bunch of different planets to essentially just start working on them there. And Earth is one of those. So we kind of cut back. It shows briefly the fall of Earth to the xenomorphs, and then we kind of see this last, you know, city on Earth. It's kind of the only place of refuge that anybody has on the planet now. And so it's a handful of Avengers are there, like Hulk and Spider-Man Miles Morales are there. Valeria Richards, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers is there. I don't believe, despite being on the cover, I don't think Cap or Iron Man were there.
I thought
Iron Man might have been briefly.
I think he's the guy in the wheelchair, genuinely.
Yeah. Okay, so he was probably there, but yeah, Cap is not there. So basically, they're kind of just they're going through. They're talking about the city and how they're certain it will fall soon. And Valeria's on a mission, and she comes back with a facehugger egg, and kind of with the intent to study it and hopefully find some way to combat them and just take them all out. Unfortunately, before she can do that, she gets chest burst because it turns out that she got facehuggered when she was off on her mission. It's why she was so late coming back. So she gets chest burst. The rest of the crew go in there and try and kill the xenomorph. It doesn't work. It gets away, presumably. We don't really see it there, I don't think.
No, we don't see the xenomorph. We see another facehugger.
Right. Because another facehugger gets Miles. It facehugs Miles, and it looks like it's going to be bad news for Miles, except then the symbiote, which is apparently on Miles right now, then is able to, it transfers over to the facehugger and gets it off of Miles, and then the facehugger symbiote kind of merges onto his suit and makes a new suit for him, and they're like, and Miles is like, we got to get the hell off this planet. That's where the issue ends.
Yes.
I do think, largely, this is pretty good. I already know what the title of this episode is going to be, which is Aliens versus Avengers might be the best comic ever made. And this is not the first time I've titled an issue like that. We did that with Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong way back about a year ago. And obviously, like, it was hyperbole then. It's hyperbole now as well. But I do think this feels like a much better exploration of the premise of, like, what would happen if aliens were in the Marvel Universe. Whereas Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong really fumbled the ball, I think, on integrating those other characters into that universe. That did, towards the end, feel just kind of like a cash grab for the sake of making money. This does feel like they're exploring some genuinely cool concepts of what would happen if these creatures were in the Marvel Universe. And I think that does work to this issue's benefit. I do think, like, this issue, I think it starts strong, and I think it ends extremely strong. I do think the middle is a little bit of a slog. Slog is maybe the wrong word, but it did feel like it dragged to me. It was pretty slow when they were kind of talking about the city and everything, and kind of how that was all going. Like, that part was not as interesting to me. But once Val got chest burst, I think then it really kicked into gear. That was a big oh shit moment, and I think, you know, stuff like that, again, makes me optimistic to see where the series goes. We don't see much, like, big action in this. Like, Black Panther does kill a few xenomorphs at the start, but outside of that, there's not kind of much of that. But I do think the concepts explored here are quite good and interesting. I will say, this is a book that feels like it should be a Red Band book, because I think, personally, while we know that Val gets chest burst, we don't actually see it happen. And not that we need to necessarily. I think it does work well in the context of this issue, but I do think, you know, the sight of a chest burster busting through one of the Marvel superheroes' chests, like, that would be cool to see. And so the fact that that's not going to happen, probably because of the rating of this book, I think it would be cool to see that. And this does look like it's kind of leaning away from the gore and stuff. I don't think it's going to go that route that much, but very solid ideas, fantastic art. It does suck that the next issue of this series does not drop until November, because that'll definitely feel like the momentum will just kind of halt, I think, in the interim period. For what this is, very solid start. I do think that this is going to be a very cool series on the whole, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
No, yeah. I mean, you know, for me, like you were saying, like, you liked the beginning kind of boring and, like, slow in the middle, and then, like, better towards the end. Well, I agree with the end. I don't know. I found a bit of the beginning to be a bit boring as well, though. When they were, it was like Wayland Yutani or whatever, and they were, like, kind of just, like, talking about, like, all the alien species or whatever. And, like, yeah, when the Black Panthers got there too, like, you kind of had to, like, figure out, like, okay, how, like, realistically, how like, these guys, right? So the way they explained it were, like, they were in space, obviously. And they have been chased, like, Wakanda themselves, I think it was, like, what it was. I think it was, like, literally just, like, the nation of Wakanda was, like, chasing this ship the entire time. And I guess they were, like, near a black hole or something. I don't know. There was some time dilation stuff going on. They've said that. But, like, that part, I was, like, kind of just, like, And then when it kicked in for me was just seeing the fall of Earth. Like, sure, that middle part the middle part was, like, kind of ish slow with Bruce, like, just looking out or whatever. Like, I don't know. It quickly picked up again when he like Val when they got like her signature back and she was like on her way with the eggs and she was getting chased by xenomorphs or whatever. But yeah, like for some reason this one it kind of reminds me of Avengers Twilight. Well, like
I
with
can see
just
that
like
a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, just like the old you know, like
Right.
how they've all aged and stuff and all that junk. I don't like you said, like Cap's on this cover, and then he's also on the next cover, I
He is,
believe.
right?
So
Yeah, I was
like,
just going to check that. Yeah.
yeah, so like I assume he is still alive, considering they keep putting him on there, or
Yeah.
it's just because he's like a symbol of the Avengers that they throw him on there. I'm not
Right.
sure, but like I presume he's alive, and it's not just these four people that have survived the xenomorph invasion, you know. And then they also mentioned somebody that I don't know if it was one of the ones that survived. I don't know if they mentioned that specifically, but like the city, the safe haven city that they're in, so they like someone built it and they had to have known the invasion was coming or whatever. I don't. Was that like specifically like Tony that like is that like Tony's building? I don't remember.
I don't know if they explained it. My guess is that it would either have been Tony, Reed, or potentially Doom are the three that I would think would probably do that.
Yeah, yeah, because like they mentioned that at one point, but then they never really like touched on whose like real city it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do agree with you with the rating on this one. I would have loved to see like the iconic scene of like a chest burster popping out of somebody, you know, especially like one of like our like favorite superheroes like that we like know and love possibly. Like that would have been like really like impactful, I feel like, but like, you know, like you said, like the rating, it's just I don't really see that happening as much. Val's death, like you definitely felt it, I would say, because you know the hologram, whatever, you like saw her literally like bleeding out of her eyes and stuff towards the end of it. But yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit more gore. That would have been nice. But yeah, no, I mean, I think this was pretty good actually for a beginning one, and I think they connected like the aliens thing to the Avengers pretty well. This is definitely like there's no shot this is 616 like you were saying.
Yeah.
This has to be just like something way off. Like some older universe or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this was pretty good. I'd give it like man, this is a tough one actually. I'd probably give it a 7 actually. Yeah, 7 sounds
I'm
good.
gonna give it an 8. That is mostly due to the ending, though. I think that really gave me a
Mm,
lot of faith that the concepts
mm.
here are gonna be really cool, and that this could we're gonna see some cool stuff in this series. So yeah, pretty good start, and hopefully it continues and doesn't fall apart.
All right, moving along here. Let's see here. Honestly, let's go with Spider-Gwen here.
This is Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider, issue number 4, written by Stephanie Phillips, and the artist is Paolo Vianelli. So, I will say I still don't love this series, but I do think it is starting to grow on me a bit. Not so much that I would add it to my pull list, because ultimately it's not like blown me away, and it kind of needs to do that for me to add it to my pull list right now with how kind of stacked there's already a lot of the weeks are. But I do think like I don't know if I like this quite as much as the last issue, but I do think it's pretty solid. Essentially, it starts off with Gwen. She wakes up and Silk is in her apartment and gives her they have a big kind of conversation, which I think was really good actually. This is maybe my even favorite part of the issue. Where they're talking, and Silk is basically like, yeah, we don't know what happened with your blue glowy powers, so no spider stuff, official or unofficial, just stay away from all of this.
Yep.
And so then it cuts to Chameleon. Chameleon's having a rough time. I guess in the explosion of power from Gwen, he kind of absorbed some of that unintentionally and is now very hungry for more, as well as the fact that it's kind of seemingly destabilized his power shifting and absorbing further. So now he's kind of going crazy, shifting between a lot of different powers, seemingly kind of uncontrollably, turns into the Rhino and breaks out of there. So he's out off on the loose now. We do find out that it was Black Tarantula who like hired Chameleon to do something. And so yeah, that switches back over to Gwen at a coffee shop where she gets attacked by Chameleon, who is now posing as the Scorpion. And so they have kind of a brief fight, but then Scorpion/Chameleon is like, help me, please, I need help. And this is where I do think the issue falls down a little bit, because then it just goes into an extended retelling of the fable of the Scorpion and the Frog. I kind of get it, because there's a Scorpion involved in this, kind of, with Chameleon being Scorpion, but it doesn't really seem to thematically fit what's happening in the issue, so I was a little bit confused why we were spending so much time devoted to that. But essentially, she kind of swings Scorpion away, and then a helicopter shows up and it's like, stop doing spider stuff, we're gonna kill you both. And that is essentially the issue. And so I do think, like I said, this is not a bad one. I think it's a decent issue. I do think the conversation between Silk and Gwen at the start was very solid. I think it was effective. And I also think it was, I know you had some reservations last issue about the fact that she has just developed new powers. I do think the way they're addressing it in this conversation in particular was very solid. And I do think that, like, that does kind of help to propel that story into some more interesting territory. As far as, like, the Scorpion Chameleon stuff, cool enough, I guess. I think, like, it could be cool to have a fight going forward where Chameleon is kind of shifting between a whole bunch of the spider roads. Based on the cover of next issue, it looks like that might be what's happening next issue. But so I think that is, like, a cool idea if they do kind of, really commit to that in the next issue, which is the conclusion of the first arc. Then they're moving on to new stuff. The ending was a little bit weird, but it wasn't terrible. I think the art generally is pretty good across the board. So I do think that, like, it's a solid issue. Still not enough to really make me go like, wow, this is amazing, I need to add it to my pull list. But I do think it's taking some steps in the right direction, and I do think it is getting better as it's going.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate this one. I didn't dislike this one as much as last week, I would say. I think like you said, like the whole Silk conversation at the beginning was very good. Just with how like I feel like she can take like a step back and she kind of like looks at things comparatively, unlike like Peter and Miles did kind of when like they first showed up like in this series. I think she takes a very big step back and kind of looks at everything as a whole. And she really knows how to talk to Gwen, I feel like. Essentially, just like, you gotta, you also have to take a step back and just like rethink things, because obviously the new powers things going in. And, Gwen being like, this never gonna happen again. And Sid, like you said, Silk being like, you don't know that. I thought that's why I thought that conversation was very good. The chameleon stuff, I really don't know how his powers works. I don't, like, he said he has like the nanites absorb Spider-Gwen's thing. So I thought he was just like a mutant kind of. So is it like technology that allows him to change, or
it changes depending on the version. Sometimes it's just he has a series of masks. Sometimes his face is like Play-Doh that he can kind of shape it into another person's appearance. So I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, all right then. Anyway. Yeah, and then the whole the scorpion and the frog, not spider and the frog, scorpion and the frog thing. Like, I don't know. I thought it was fine. Like, I didn't, like, I kind of understood why they were telling it, because like Silk mentioned to Gwen when they were talking that the police are after her. And so for her to basically like kind of mention like, all right, I'll take him, and that's like Scorpion's, he's like he's asking me for help, but like, if I take him, he'll probably like stab me in the back, kind of like how the Scorpion did to the frog or whatever. Like, I kind of understand where it's coming from, and I'll just say I didn't mind it. I really don't have much, like, I'm kind of like monologuing here, but I really don't have a lot to say on that one. I don't know where I'm going with it at the end. Anyway,
I just think like they spent like a weird amount of time on it. That was like 4 pages, and I was just like, really? Do we need to devote all this space to it?
Yeah, it was just constantly like in her thoughts, like in the back, and it was just like it was kind of random, honestly.
Yeah,
just like for her to just think about that story all of a sudden.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I think this one was. I did like this one better than last week's. I haven't been liking it as much as the first yet, but we'll see how that goes. Also, in the synopsis of this one, it says Jessica Jones. I didn't see her once this entire issue.
Yeah, she's not in this.
So I don't know where that came from, but
well, that means you have to kick your rule into effect, Sebastian.
No, that was a versus thing. That was versus.
Oh my God! Why is it's so specific?
It's very specific, tailored to if it says Hulk versus or somebody versus something, and there is no fight, getting to 1. That's what it is. That's what it is. But no, yeah, I think this one was fine. I'm generally just gonna give it a 7.
Yeah, I'm also gonna give it a 7. Okay, so let's do The Last Mermaid here. This is The Last Mermaid number 6, written by and drawn by and pretty much everything by Derek Kirk Kim. So yeah, as mentioned, this is number 6. This is the final issue of the first story arc. It is also the last issue of this series for the year. Derek Kurt Kim mentioned in the back, right before the letters page, how the plan is to go on break for 6 months, get more pages built up, so then the book can go monthly for 6 issues in next year again. So as far as the plot here goes, it starts off with the mermaid and Torque cleaning up and kind of finishing off the fight against the mutants that they were fighting. And then most of the rest of this issue is just kind of them kind of talking. They see the trident in the distance that the mermaid has been searching for the whole time. And so they kind of camp. They make camp for the night. The mermaid ultimately actually tells Torque her name for the first time. It's Isla or Isla.
One of the two.
And yeah. And then so while they're kind of talking, they're having this kind of heart-to-heart moment. They see these other people being attacked by another band of mutants, including a really big one. That's the one on the cover there. It's a group of cyborg mutants, and so they drag these two people off to this cave. It's a water cave, and the two of them are initially not really going to help. Torque clearly wants to, but they also both recognize that they can't really do anything about it right now. Except then it turns out that they end up the place where the mutants all bring those other two people is the water cave that Torque was planning to bring the mermaid to, and so they kind of have to go there now. Like, they could just keep going, but there's no guarantee there's another water cave around, so they have to kind of go there and ultimately fight those mutants, presumably, and so they can get the water cave and everything. So that is kind of the extent of this issue. And I do like this series quite a bit. I think it's a very solid series. The art is fantastic as always. I do think, first of all, I don't think this issue is as good as some of the previous two. There's not really a bunch of action in this, which is fine, but I do think that has been kind of the strong point of this series thus far because of how strong the art is. I think my kind of hesitation with this series going forward is I do like this series for sure, and I want to read more, but I do think the fact that there is a 6-month gap between this issue and the next one, I want to be clear that, like, no shade to the creator or anything. This is it's a lot. It's got to be a ton of work to make a comic book basically entirely by yourself. I am absolutely sympathetic to that, and I think that the creator and everybody involved should take as long as they all need to, between, I'm assuming it's mostly just the writer / artist, and then I'm assuming this book has an editor, but so, everybody who is involved with this, it's not many people, but they should take the time they need to make sure they get this story the way they want it to be. And, with it being basically a solo creator effort on this, I get you're going to need time to kind of get stuff built up again. However, I do just think, as a reader, it does kind of make me think, well, when this book comes back, will I be picking it up? I think, for now, I will tentatively say yes, because I do want to see where the story goes, and I do like the story. I like the characters, I like the art a lot, but this kind of thing, when a book gets interrupted so much like this, or for such a long period in the case of this book, it does kind of make me mentally check out of it a little bit. And so I do wonder if my enthusiasm for the series will still be there when this book comes back. And so I'm not entirely sure that I'll be picking it back up. At the very least, I think I'll probably, I do think I will read this when it's in trade format. And maybe that's honestly the best way to go for this series, with it being 6 issues every year, to just kind of trade weight it, read it all in one go, and then, kind of that's kind of the better way to experience this, for me personally, at least, maybe. But so, yeah, I do think I will keep reading this overall, sure. I just don't know if it'll be in single issues or if it'll be in trade paperback format. But regardless, for this issue, it's a little bit more low-key, it's a little bit more chill, but I do think there's also, I kind of consider this to be like a comfort read. And I think this still works on that level. So I do still like this. It's a very solid series. I wish the creator the best of luck. I might trade weight it, but I will definitely keep checking it out to some degree, in some form, as it keeps going.
No, yeah, I genuinely, I think this one's still very good. I think, the 6 months is a while, to the point where I don't think I'll remember anything about what's happening, after those 6 months. I think, like you said, the action of this series has been definitely the main highlight of this entire series so far, simply because of the art. I think this one definitely did slow it down a bit, and I think that was fine and all, honestly, considering it is the last one for now. So I think that's fine. Not to leave it on like this huge cliffhanger. Leave it with some suspense, like he did. We know they're gonna have to go into like this whole like the cyborg mutant like hideout or whatever. But yeah, I think slowing it down was honestly the right call, and like finally us learning her name, like a little bit more about her and stuff, and just like having it slow down and like have this like conversation between these two, like Torque and Isla, I think was the right call in the end. And so yeah, I still actually I really enjoyed this series for what it is so far. And yeah, I'd give this issue probably like an 8.
I'm going to give it a 7, I think. Still good, but not quite as engaging for me.
We are gonna go Captain America.
Okay, this is Captain America number 12, written by J. Michael Straczynski, and the artist is Jesus Saiz. So this kind of, I thought this was going to kind of conclude this this next chapter of the series. Not really. There's still it actually ends on a very big cliffhanger. But there's not kind of a lot to this issue plot wise. It is kind of there's two things. There's Captain America and Co. Journey back to the Front Door Cabaret. There's not much to talk about there. It's kind of just them road tripping across. They have some kind of dialogue back and forth, which I think is good, but not really anything of note to talk about there, I don't think. Except the end, which I'll get to later. But then the other thing, I think the more sizable thing is we did some more backstory on Death in this issue. So essentially Death and Lyra and a bunch of other, kind of deity-like creatures were in this place. I think it was called like the Pale City or something.
I don't remember.
It was this like kind of, perfect like paradise city where all of these beings, they were in service in some way to humanity or to nature or just to the world as a whole. And so, Death was very much a very optimistic person for a while in terms of, Death always was kind of looking at the earth and was so proud of humanity and wanted to, to genuinely help them and help them pass over from life to death as painlessly as possible, and took great pride in that job. But then we did a sequence which I think is fantastic. I mean, this was genuinely so good and effective, I think, where we see the thing that broke Death, which is the advent of mass warfare. This was already kind of talked about in a previous issue, but we kind of see it here. It takes us through each panel going through like a major conflict of some sort where just, millions and millions of people are dying en masse. And it just kind of became too much for him, ultimately culminating in the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which just kind of broke him completely. And he was like, nope, fuck this. I'm going to kill everybody now. We're just going to wipe the map clean. We're going to start over. And so in that process of trying to create a better world going forward, that's how he came to conflict with Lyra and everybody else. And so we get some of that backstory, which I do think was the highlight of the issue. Not to say that the rest of the issue is bad. I'm very much enjoying this story and where it's going. I think this is a very solid change of direction from the first arc. And so then we get to the end where Death kind of, not really possesses, but he gives kind of the power of Death to a bunch of people on the road in between Cap and his group and the Front Door Cabaret. So there's a whole bunch of people in between there and in between them and the cabaret. And essentially Death is saying, well, hey, I will give you this power. If you can kill Captain America and this group, stop them from reaching the Front Door Cabaret, you will survive the coming like apocalypse of me just killing everybody. And if you don't stop him, you're just gonna die. And that's kind of the cliffhanger is Cap and the group come up against this street that is just flooded with people who have this death power in between the two of them. So again, like this series has turned into something that I very much enjoy reading every month. It's not usually like a huge highlight, but it's one that I do enjoy reading and look forward to reading now, which is more than can be said for that first arc, which I really, on the whole, was not a huge fan of. But I do think with how this has developed, I am glad definitely that I kept reading it, because I do think it's a very interesting idea where it's going. I do wonder, I kind of doubt that the Death thing is going to be wrapped up completely next issue. It does kind of seem like that is the culmination of this arc in the next issue, but I do think it'll kind of Well, I think it'll resolve a little bit, and then it will end up coming back into focus later on. I do think like there's stuff like that vision that Cap had that I just don't see happening in the next issue. I think that is something we're going to revisit later on down the line. But we do know like after the next issue, it's like a team up arc between Cap, Thor, and Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. So they're clearly going to resolve it at least a little bit before then. But yeah, regardless, like very solid issue. I think the dialogue is really working. I think there's a really great sequence where Captain America is talking to I believe it's Malik's like one of the person who was kind of working with Malik. They have a really good conversation there where Cap is essentially just telling her why he is continuing to fight. And it's such like quintessential fantastic Cap dialogue that I was just really happy to see it. Because that has been a problem, I think, with this run. I feel like the characterization of Steve in the present day, at least, has been pretty weird. Not always, but I think it's been kind of iffy a lot of the time. I definitely didn't feel that here. I thought it was really, really good Cap dialogue. And I think the stuff with Death was cool. I really, again, loved that sequence. Seeing him just, you know, get more and more overwhelmed with the mass warfare and the casualties that arose from that. I think that was all fantastic. Also giving a really believable motivation for why he would want to just fucking wipe everybody off the map. I think that worked really well. And a very solid cliffhanger. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the series now, and yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it goes in the future.
I mean, I'm looking forward for it end to end, honestly.
Jesus.
No, I mean, God, it's fine. I'm bored. I was bored. I thought the whole back point or the flashback with Death thing, like I thought that's fine. I don't know why, but I feel like I've seen it before, you know. Like this is always the reason, like life is always like, yes, like always so happy and like, you know, because she gets to like bring life into the world, like let it like last and stuff, and then Death always like take it away, and like that's always the thing. Like Death always likes life too, like it always like enjoys seeing people live and stuff. But then when big things like all of the world wars, I think it was like the Holocaust, it was said at one point as well. Like all these like just insanely big death tolls just absolutely broke him, you know, because he doesn't want humans to die. So it's just like it's like constant stuff that like he just like hates them to the point where he's just like fuck it, you know, like I'm tired of doing this now. Like I don't want to have to do this anymore. So they should all die at this point, like. You know, and I don't know. I just feel like I've seen it before. Like his motivation, like understandable, but just like I feel like I don't want to say overused because like you don't see it a lot. I want to say, but I just feel like I have seen it before. I'm trying to remember where I've seen it genuinely, and I'm drawing a blank, but I know I have. And then yeah, for the most part, besides that, I was just kind of bored with everything else. Like Death. At one point, I remember he said in this one specifically that like. He himself would never kill a human, but in order to like fulfill his plans, he has broken that one rule.
Yeah.
Of his, and you know we saw. I don't know if that was last issue or this issue where he was just walking in walking, and he's just like, "I relieve you," and the man just
that
like,
was
dies.
This issue. Yeah.
That was this one. Yeah, that dude just dies, and then also him giving like all these people like the death touch. I'm gonna call it, I guess. You know, like. He said like they will die if they don't get rid of it, you know, all that stuff. You know, I thought that was cool, honestly, genuinely. But everything else with Cap and the plane and all that stuff, I was just like I was done with. I was over it. It was boring for me. I don't care anymore, man. We're so close to the end, and
well, I'm assuming you're gonna read the next issue because you have to know what happens next. The last issue of the arc.
No, it's in my nature. It's in my nature, and I have to start the next one because it's got Spider-Man. You know.
Yeah.
Also, the disappointing thing about it, you know. Yeah.
So I've got you for at least 2 more issues. I don't have to make you read this book.
At least 2, you got me. Honestly, yeah. But yeah, no, I'm gonna give this one a 6.
I'm gonna give it an 8. I liked it a lot. I think it was very solid.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's probably pretty good. I just thought it was boring. I'm kind of over it.
Okay, let's go to Ultimate X-Men. This is Ultimate X-Men number 6, written and drawn by Peach Momoko. And can I just say, absolute props to Peach Momoko for writing and drawing this book for 6 months in a row. That is not something that like most Marvel creators are able to do. Writing, sure, but like it is rare. We've talked about this with the Hulk series a lot. Artists do not usually have an uninterrupted gap for this amount of time on a big 2 book, and the next 3 issues are still written and drawn by Peach Momoko. Like, fantastic stuff. Really, really great. So props there, absolutely. As for the issue itself, I think it was still good. I do think, like, this series, it's kind of faltering a little bit, and faltering might be the wrong word, but I do think it's slowing down a little bit for me, I think a little bit. In this one, we have the group, they're all kind of talking, right? Everybody who's kind of been pulled into this group, so it's Armor, it's May, it's Nico, and it's a couple of Nico's friends. They're all kind of talking, and they kind of bring up in conversation the mutant group that is kind of it's this mutant kind of religious cult that has formed. I believe they're called the Children of the Atom, and so it's they kind of get some information on them and on the Shadow King. Essentially, he could both read and also like propel his own thoughts. Yeah. Kind of unintentionally to both of them, although he did learn how to get control of his powers more. We also there was some revelation that he was like friends with Tsubasa, right?
God, I think in his mind he was, but she doesn't recognize him. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. But he had some connection to Tsubasa,
Yeah.
who was Hisako's friend who killed himself at the start of the series. And so they kind of did some backstory on that. Then the Shadow King ends up popping out with the group. They have a bit of a conversation. They manage to beat him, and then he kind of gets propelled back because he's kind of sent his mind out to do the fighting for him in the shadow form. And then so he gets propelled back. He does kind of again make the offer like, join me, Hisako, and we can like become the ultimate Homo superior. We can become the ultimate mutants and rule the world or whatever. And then but then they push him back, and then he gets taken to presumably the leader of the Children of the Atom to kind of help get him back up and running and back into the mix of things. And that is kind of the issue. I do think like learning more about the Children of the Atom is nice, although I do think that a lot of the stuff we learned was kind of stuff that we kind of were already piecing together a little bit. So I don't know how necessary all of that flashback exposition was. They also did mention, like, don't miss the reveal of the final member of the group on the last page. I don't know if I'm an idiot, but I did not notice who the last member was going to be.
No, I mean, I know who it is based off the next cover and synopsis.
It's Psylocke.
Yeah.
I don't think we saw her in this.
Yeah, no, they did not introduce her in this one at all.
Yeah. So yeah. Besides that, like the conversation with the Shadow King was fine. I don't think it was as interesting as some of the previous interactions they've had. I do think it kind of ditched the horror element of their interactions a little bit in this. It was less creepy than it was in some of the previous ones, but it was still fine, and it was good to see like the team kind of all together confront the Shadow King. That was cool enough. I do think this is another book that kind of falls into a despite the fact that a lot of the stuff in this book is actually very dark, I do think just the vibe of this series is just a nice, chill, kind of relaxing read, despite the fact that, again, it is kind of a horror book at the same time. But I do think it's kind of a relaxed, chilled out read a lot of the time. That is always a fun, fine, decent enough read that is enjoyable enough. But I don't think it's kind of wowing me at this point. I definitely do think it is better than Ultimate Black Panther for sure. Like, I actually do enjoy reading this series. I don't really enjoy reading Ultimate Black Panther right now, but I don't think it's I do think it is slowing down a little bit, and I do hope that as we move into the second arc, some more momentum starts to build a little bit, because I do think that the way this series is structured, it'll end up feeling more natural when stuff starts building than, again, something like Ultimate Black Panther. But I do think it is taking a little bit to get there right now and kind of slowing to a crawl. And I do think some momentum should be starting to build here a little bit.
Yeah. I feel bad always comparing this one to Ultimate Black Panther, honestly.
We do that. We compare Ultimate Black Panther to everything, because Ultimate Black Panther is the worst Ultimate book right now. It
really is. But, like, again, with it's always about the pacing with it, Yeah. Because, like, this one, it's slow, but like for me, I think I finally like the action, right? Because like Black Panther is like very action heavy, right? And so like that's why it feels like it goes so slow, because there's like no action, and then when they like they have like spots where they're just talking. Like it feels like it's just like, okay, we're droning here. But this one, it's a mystery. Like we're always like getting closer to the mystery, getting like closer to solving it. And like this one, like you said, like the flashback, was it really necessary when we were like, okay, we kind of have everything down already, so like we don't really need like the flashback was like, it was nice to have, but like we were like, okay, yeah, we're kind of like, we were coming to this conclusion already. Like it wasn't entirely necessary, but then like we finally got kind of some action in this one too, with armor, mostly armor, going up against
Mostly armor, yeah.
the Shadow King, and we finally like kind of see her kind of like use her powers like intentionally, I would say, almost. And then just like the whole Children of the Atom thing. I think the other two, I mean, looking at looking at future covers, I think the other two of Nico's friends are also mutants.
Yeah.
Not too sure yet. I think
one of them is seemingly Cyclops.
Yeah, considering they are part of that, like their parents are part of that cult.
Right.
I think they are mutants as well, because they, like you said, they're a mutant group or the mutant cult or whatever. But yes, they haven't. I don't think they have said that they are.
No, they did not mention that in this one
at all. So yeah, but yeah, no, I still really like Ultimate X-Men. I thought at one point I was like towards the middle, I was kind of being like, do I really like this one? No, I think I ultimately, after the first arc, I definitely say I did enjoy this series.
Yeah,
and I am enjoying this series. Excited to see finally the last team member next issue, and yeah, just like kind of like the formation of like finally like kind of like the X-Men. I will still say that this feels super disconnected from the rest of the universe, but I think in this next arc it might fit in more, possibly with this mutant cult. Honestly, I'm not too sure. I could just be like, this is me theorizing here.
Yeah,
but I think that's how it might connect to the rest of like that.
I don't know. I'm not sold on that, but yeah, this one does feel to me like I honestly do not really see this being looped into the rest of the Ultimate Universe in a huge way. I kind of think this will stay its own thing for the most part.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think I really like this one. I'd give this one an 8.
I'm gonna give it a 7. I do think it's very solid, but this one I do think did lose a little bit of momentum, especially for the conclusion of an arc. I felt like it maybe should have been a little bit bigger than it was.
Mm-hmm. All right, I am going to be talking about Gotham City Sirens. So, writer is Leah Williams. Artist is Todd Brandt. Oh, three artists. Three artists. We got Ted Brandt, Daniel Hilliard, and Rose Stein. Man, what an issue here. So yeah, we left off last issue, right, with them being the group being surrounded by the weird zombie things. They were surrounded by those, and so they kind of escape. They make a temporary solution. Poison Ivy just like raises them into the sky with like her plants. Then they kind of like think of a plan to how to basically like stop the zombies, stop Punchline, stop Exo Punch, stop just like basically take everything down, right? And so Catwoman and White Rabbit go and try and figure out how to like stop the zombie things. I forgot what they called them exactly, but I'm just gonna keep calling them zombie things.
They kind of look like Starros, but like more plant based.
Yeah. They kind of do in the thing too as well. But and then then it's Poison Ivy, Harley, and the Dumb Bunny who like stay behind and try to stop Punchline, who is in a helicopter with the rest of like her investor or whatever peoples. So oh my gosh, Catwoman and White Rabbit break into Punchline's compound. They have to like go through a laser grid, which is super easy considering they're both like master thieves or whatever. And then they find this other scientist lady who Catwoman knocks out because she surprised them or whatever. And when she wakes up, she tells them that it's in like her pocket, and then she actually poisons them. And with that poisoning, Catwoman's like, I've felt this before, like, and she's trying to figure it out, and she realizes that poison is actually Poison Ivy's like pheromones. And so while that's happening, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Dumb Rabbit, they basically are in like this giant plant. Like Poison Ivy makes her body, like really big with plants, and basically like trashes Punchline's helicopter. They kind of have a fight a bit. There's a lot of shooting going on with Punchline, and she has the upper hand for the most part until Poison Ivy figures out about that Punchline used her pheromones. She takes down the zombies. Who is it? Oh, White Rabbit releases a bunch of the animals that Punchline was using. Through that causes a stampede. Punchline tries to escape. She presumably gets eaten by lions and tigers and all this junk. And then, yeah, they help everybody escape from the compound and all that. Yeah, no, this one was weird. It's honestly not. I think I didn't like it as much simply because of the art. I don't know. Like, I think it's the same artist the entire time, but like,
no, it's not.
No, this one changed. Yeah. That's yep. Okay, yeah, I did not like the art on this one. I noticed that I was like, I don't remember it being this bad. Like, I remember me not liking it like a ton. Like, I thought it was fine, but this one I was just really like, damn, like I'm not liking this art at all. And I think that's probably, I mean, the story itself it's not the best story in general, honestly. But like for me, like the art really just like trashed it for me. Like it was hard to enjoy at points, genuinely. Yeah, I don't have much to say besides that. I think this story was like it's a one-off, obviously. I don't know. I don't know.
You glad you read the whole thing?
I mean, sure, I guess. Like, was it really necessary for me to? No, but like, I don't know. It was fun for like the first two, kind of. Like the first one was confusing. The second one, kind of fine. Third one, I don't remember reviewing. I don't think I did. That was the weekend skip. We did.
No, we skipped week 2. You reviewed week 3.
Oh shoot. Okay. Maybe. I think I said I didn't mind week 3. I don't remember. I don't know. It was last week too. I gave it a 6. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, you didn't read 2. That's what it was. No, you didn't.
No, I did read 2. Yeah.
Yeah, you did read 2. But yeah, ultimately, I think this was fine. No, not fine. Series as a whole, I'd probably give honestly, probably like a 6. This issue, I'd give like, 5.
Well, I will move on here to The Flash number 12. This is written by Cy Spurrier, and the artist is, we got a couple. We got Ramon Perez and Vasco Georgiev. So I have very, very much come around on this series. I don't think it's perfect. I do still have it's not even that I have like concrete issues with it, but there are still, I don't love every issue. However, I do think that at this, which I would say is for the most part the culmination of the run to this point, like technically there is kind of a cliffhanger into the next issue, but that does feel like it'll be kind of more of an epilogue, whereas this is kind of the climax of that first, year of this Flash run. And I am just filled with this overwhelming feeling that I am very glad that I read this series to this point. I think the culmination of this hits a lot of really, really great beats where even if it doesn't work for me, even if I don't love the issue as a whole, I very much appreciate what it is doing. And I think there are some there are some moments where this issue absolutely excels in ways that I think can only really have been achieved through the long and sometimes confusing and arduous buildup that this series has often been. So it starts off with Wally. He has now absolutely lost control of all of his mind. He doesn't have his mind anymore. He's just this empty husk, this vessel for Eobard Thawne, who has been injected into him to then inject that poison into the time stream and let time die, as is the will of the Archangels. So then we cut back to the Flash family and Jai in particular, but actually most of them, they all figure out where Wally is. Wally's back in the real world, and so they're able to kind of lock onto him and get to him. And then we get a big reveal. Linda goes and talks to Wally there. And do you remember like the blue ghost that was in that like garden that Wally was stuck in?
Yes.
That was Linda the whole time. It was the parts of Linda's mind that were peeled away and removed as a result of Abracadabra's fuckery. They got sent to that garden, and so when she was the entire time trying to keep Wally's mind intact, that was Linda the whole time trying to save Wally. And I think that immediately, like, looking back on that now, it recontextualizes the whole thing in such an interesting way. That was a really cool moment. Then we have kind of So then in Linda talking to Wally there, she's able to jog his memories and get Wally back. So Wally's back and he goes running in to try and stop all this damage. And all the other Flash family join him there. In fact, the Flash family is already there working to try and push back all the cosmic death of time stuff that is going on. And not only that, we find that all of the Flash rogues that were trying to kind of tear Wally's life apart, they were all kind of mind controlled by the Archangels. And so the rest of the Flash family kind of frees them from this. And so in this moment of pure gratitude, we then have Grodd and Mirror Master and the Folding Man. They all come and work together with the Flash family to provide this distraction to let the Flashes all do their thing and try and save all of time. It's fantastic. It's a really cool moment where they all jump in. And then we have what I think is by far the best moment of this issue, and also the best moment probably of this run to this point, where we have all of the Flash family, except for Barry. Barry's not there, but we have all the Flash family running alongside Wally, and Wally is exhausted. He is like dead tired. He's just like been used to inject this poison into all of time and reality. He's like floored. He can barely stand, but he gets up and he starts running, and he's getting boosts from all the other members of the Flash family. They're pushing him forward, and then they recede into the background. And so they all kind of do this, and they're all talking to him, and then it's just him running alone into this dying time stream, except then Barry pops up, and he comes and runs beside him. And it's these two, the two, best Flashes, I'm going to say, but definitely the two most iconic Flashes, just running together. And you hear Barry's thoughts, and Barry's thinking the whole time of how, they've kind of had such a journey together, and he has so much he wants to say to Wally, and kind of, how he was waiting for Wally to need him. And then when Wally did need him, he was so busy waiting for it that he didn't kind of see it happen. And so he wasn't there to actually help Wally when he needed it, and how he's so just proud of Wally, but he also is not saying any of this to him, partially because Wally probably knows, but at the same time, they're also racing into a dying time stream. Time is collapsing around them. He knows that he cannot focus on that. He has to focus on just getting the job done. And so it's the two best Flashes just running together doing this, and then they kind of get into the heart of the point where the time stream is being poisoned. And Barry still has the knife that he stabbed Wally with back at the end of the first arc, or the first part of the first arc. And so they kind of take the knife together, and they rush into the time stream to use that knife to then try and cut Thawne out of the time stream and save all of it. And that's where the issue ends. So presumably they succeed, and the next issue will kind of be an epilogue examining kind of where they're all at now that time has been restored, and all of that. All of them are kind of back, and Wally has his memories back and everything. So because of that, I do think, like, technically this isn't the official end of the arc. However, it kind of functionally feels like it is. And I just think that, like, it is such a good culmination of the entire run up to this point. Some of it is still kind of confusing to me because, it's been kind of hard to keep everything straight in my mind about what this series has been doing the whole time, because it's been so kind of obtuse for a lot of it. But I do think this issue really brings the whole series together in a way that is very satisfying. The first scene where you have Wally running in as this empty husk and delivering the poison is super cool and chilling. It's fantastic. The scene where we see that Linda was the ghost the whole time, really cool reveal that then does recontextualize a lot of the series up to this point. And ultimately, that last sequence where the Flash family is all running together, it's just it's such a beautiful, like, cathartic moment of all these people going and literally pushing Wally to go and just save the time stream, ending in that moment with him and Barry running together. Like, it's fantastic. It's such a really great moment that then does tie together this whole series in such a way that it really does feel like it has been, like, this was all built up to in a really fantastic way, and provided such a fantastic payoff to the, months, like the literal years worth of buildup that the series has had. I think it was such a fantastic way to close out the arc. The middle part of it was not, like, blowing me away necessarily. I think it was very, very solid, and well written and everything. But it was really that start, and in particular that end, that just really launched this up. So I'm going to give this an 8. It's almost a 9. Fantastic conclusion to this first arc. And honestly, if this was the conclusion to the series, I think it would be a satisfying one. Obviously, like, the epilogue next issue, I'm sure will be helpful. But I do think, like, this has provided a very satisfying close to the first year and chapter of this run. And it makes me very happy that I've stuck with it and read it all to this point. and makes me very excited to see where it could be going in the future.
Yeah, I'd probably give it like a 4.
All right. Well, anyway, Incredible Hulk Annual #1.
All right. Well, this is the next chapter of the Infinity Watch mini event thing. It is written by Derek Landy, and the artist on the main story is Jeff Shaw. The artist on the backup story, as always, is Sarah Pichelli. So, not much to say here in terms of plot. Really, what we have is Colleen shows up because she got a call, not a real call, but like a mind call from the Soulstone bearer, whose name is World Mind. Mindstone. Yeah, never mind. Mindstone. And so he calls Colleen and he's like, "Hey, I need your help." And then Thanos shows up. And I will say, it was good to see Thanos here because this is an event that's kind of based around him. And he has been completely absent since issue #1. This is now issue #6 of this event, so it's been a little while since he's popped up. I think that was immediately good to kind of remind viewers what the stakes of this event are, even though it's something that's happened a lot. It's just Thanos be going after all the Infinity Stones again. But so Colleen is there, World Mind is there, and Thanos shows up. And Thanos is initially kind of seemingly bested by World Mind. World Mind's fucking up his mind, it seems. And he's like, I didn't bring Colleen here to help me, survive Thanos. I brought Colleen here to help Thanos survive me or something, which seems weird. I don't know why he would have called Colleen there in the first place then. He doesn't seem to care about killing Thanos, so I don't know why he was saying that. Regardless, though, while World Mind is kind of gloating, Thanos just puts his hand through his chest and kills him. Rips out the Mind Stone, and that's that. Except then Hulk shows up because the Mind Stone put out a call to Hulk as well. So Hulk shows up. They have a big fight. Pretty cool fight, I gotta say. Good fight, I think.
Very good fight.
Solid art. I think the setting's also just cool. I like that setting. It's just like in a forest in Oregon. I'm like, that's cool. I like that setting. And then so Hulk manages to actually it's mostly Colleen actually. Just Colleen ends up in the chaos of the Hulk and Thanos fight. Colleen manages to snatch the Mind Stone and then becomes the bearer of the Mind Stone herself. It like powers up her sword, gives her a cool new costume, and then she stabs Thanos to the head, and then Hulk like ground pounds him. Essentially like not killing him permanently, but putting him down long enough so that Colleen can leave. And that's kind of the end of the main story. And the backup story is Coulson and Fury are together now. They're going after trying to find Nighthawk. They find him. They have a bit of a fight. Nighthawk takes Nick Fury like captive, hostage. Coulson pops up and he's like, "Let him go. I am the bearer of the Death Stone, and if you don't let him go, I'm gonna fucking kill you." And that's where that ends. So I think like I do think this is one of the better issues of this event. However, I will say I do think like this event has been pretty solid for the most part. I didn't like the Spider-Man one. Besides that, though, I think most of these have been fine. And this one is pretty solid, I think. I think it helps that the brawl between Hulk and Thanos is quite good, because that is a sizable chunk of the issue. But I think, like, I like, personally, the Colleen getting the Mind Stone twist. I think that's cool. I think it provides a good evolution for her character. I just like Colleen in general. I think she's a fun character. So, like, I think all that worked. I think the fight was solid. I think it was drawn well. And I did appreciate seeing Thanos again and actually having him pop up as a reminder of what this series is trying to, what the characters in the series are trying to fight and prevent. I think that was good to see. It looks like he's not in the next issue of this event, which is the Moon Knight one next week. This event is going full swing now. It used to be every other week. Now it is every week until the event is over. Actually, no, that's not true. There's not one. It skips a week in between the next one and the one after that, but it is ramping up a little bit. However, it doesn't really look like Thanos is going to be in any more of these until the finale. But regardless, I do think having him here in this kind of at the 2/3 point was a good way to kind of transition from Act 2 to Act 3 of this event, and I think that did work quite well. So on the whole, this is pretty solid. I definitely didn't hate this. It does not make me more excited for the Infinity Watch like series that is upcoming in December. I'm still not planning to put that up, but I do think for what this is, it was a solid issue. I think the Hulk fight was good, although I do think some of Hulk's lines were a little bit out of character for this version of the Hulk, but I don't think that was too egregious. So overall, I think it was solid enough, not bad.
No, yeah, I was actually kind of surprised at the beginning of this one. I really like Colleen's character, especially when Thanos first got there too. When she met with World Mind, and he's like, I hired you to be my bodyguard, and then he revealed that he has an Infinity Stone, and she's like, well, hold on now, you have an Infinity Stone, so that, like, I know who's gonna be coming after you at this point. like, I don't think I'm really the best person to
Yeah.
to hire for this. And then in pops Thanos, and Worldmind's like, all right, go get him. And she's like, hey man, like, this sword isn't my family. I'm not afraid to like poke you with it. He just snaps it. I don't know. I just found that really funny. Like, she clearly knows like her power. Like, she doesn't try. She's just like, damn, all right.
Yeah.
And then I really liked the Hulk Thanos brawl. I think it was very good. I did think like Hulk's dialogue was a bit weird, but like I don't know. I kind of just like chopped it up to just the Mind Stone.
Yeah. He had one good line, to be fair. I don't remember what it was, but he had one line where I was like, that's pretty badass.
No, yeah, like it's just like his the motivations behind it were like a bit weird. Like, he shows up and then like he gets Thanos to drop the Mind Stone, and then he's just like, yeah, I'm not letting you pick up the stone.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of random. Like, I can understand if he's just like, all right, I just want to fight you. Like, that makes sense. Thanos has bested him before, and he keeps like Thanos is like still gloating to him like, I've bested you before and stuff like that. And like, so like for Hulk's motivation just to be like, you know what, like, frick this, I'm gonna beat you this time. Like, that makes more sense than just being like, yeah, I'm not letting you touch the stone.
Yeah.
I could that feels more Hulkish than anything, but like I said, I'm just chopping it up to the Mind Stone. And so I think this one was pretty good. Backup story, yeah, it was fine. I don't like this Nightwatch guy. I don't like him. I think his character's dumb. But yeah, I think this one was pretty good, and I'd give it a 7.
I would also give it a 7, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do Void Rivals, Sebastian. This is Void Rivals number 12 by Robert Kirkman, and the artist is Lorenzo De Felici. So this is the conclusion to the second arc of Void Rivals. There is a gap month in the series next month, and then it's going to be back with issue number 13 in November. In October. Where, by the way, some of the Cobra Law people are showing up next issue, so that's interesting. But as for this issue, I will say, like, I keep calling this series the most inconsistent book in the Energon universe, and I do still believe that. However, I do think this is while not amazing, I think it's a decent conclusion to this second arc. I will say, still fucking hate Darek. There was a point in this issue where I was like, maybe he's not going to be quite as annoying in this one, and then he started quipping again. I was like, fuck you, you still suck, Darek. But real quick,
name one quip.
Genuine. Let me see. Let me find my issue here, Sebastian. Give me a second.
All right.
This is good. I've started just keeping all my issues like right next to where I record, so I can actually just look through and reference this stuff now. Okay, this one isn't really Darek's quip, but when Darek and Solilla are parting ways, because they do part ways in this, because Solilla wants to go and find Zer to try on. This is something she mentioned in the last issue. She's like, I have to do that mission alone. So she goes, you do just fine on your own, and Darek goes, no, I don't. And then Handroid goes, he really doesn't. That's a Handroid quip, but it's still like, okay.
Yeah, so that point's moot because you said Darek quip.
Yeah, but hang on, there is one farther. Okay, here's the one that pissed me off. So Solilla goes, you're a good man, Darek. And Darek goes, and you were sometimes nice to me, Solilla. Sorry, I'm not good with sincerity. I read that and I was like, I fucking hate that.
How is that a quip? That's not a quip at all. What?
It's a little bit of a quip, Sebastian. It's a little bit of like, it feels like a quip from the writer, not necessarily from Darek, but okay. Here's another Darek line. This is just gonna turn into me reading Darek's lines from this issue. Oh God. Solilla goes, good luck with your people, and Darek goes, luck? I don't need luck. I traded you in for a giant killer robot. He's got a sword and everything. I'm good.
Okay, that one feels like a Darek quip. I'll give you that.
Oh, here's another one. This is another like legitimate quip here. You cannot tell me this is not a quip. So this is right after Darek, because Darek also gives Handroid to Solilla to kind of help her on her mission. And so Handroid is like, no, hang on, don't do that. We can't let a Zertonian get Handroid technology. And Darek goes, put it on my tab. So I don't know what to tell you. Quip City. Anyway, so we've kind of covered the Darek and Solilla stuff. The other thing to mention, Springer is going with Darek. He's gonna be traveling with Darek to help him out on his journey, and then Darek gives Handroid to Solilla. We get a point though also where they kind of do the whole like forehead touch thing, right?
Yes.
And their stones on their foreheads like clink up against each other, and when that happens, we see a brief vision of this planet, and I have no idea what this place is, but It's a big like rock floating in space, maybe within the sacred ring, because they kind of zoom in on the sacred ring first to do that. But
Yes.
anyway, we go to this rock and we see these eyes like opening, like somebody is waking up, and then the Dart and Scylla, they pull their heads back, the gems separate, and then the eyes close. And so it's like, well, what's that? I don't know. Is that a Transformers thing that I'm not aware of? Did you know what that was about or no?
I'm pretty sure it's a Transformers thing.
No.
I mean, I'm not gonna like. To me, it definitely seemed like a Transformers thing. It looked like a Transformer planet thing. I don't want to throw names out quite yet because I'm not like too sure, because it kind of looked like it, but at the same time, it really doesn't. So I don't really. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's a brief scene where the two leaders of Agoria and Zertonia, they kind of talk to each other, and they're like, this is a problem. We need to track those guys down before the great unification or whatever. We did a scene that I think is quite good with Proximus talking to another cadet that just got kind of recruited into it. I think that was good. It showed a kind of human side to Proximus that we hadn't seen before. I will say the one line of that I wasn't sure about is when they're talking. There's a point where the kid asked if he can hide with Proximus, and Proximus goes, "Sure, kid." Something about that, I don't know. It's a small thing, but it didn't really seem in character for his kind of mannerisms of speaking. That's a very small thing, though. Then we also have a Stretchzoid scene. Again, just Stretchzoid is the best part of this book. I don't care what you say, Sebastian. I love Stretchzoid. He's doing a robbery or a heist or something, and then he manages to get out of there and get out of the area where they're chasing him from. And again, we get a really, really good... I fucking love... This is the thing. Stretchzoid, yeah, a lot of times he is this, like, boisterous, bombastic character where he's kind of just going around yelling about everything. He's like, I'm gonna do all these pirate jobs or whatever. But we also get moments every so often, like this one. There's one earlier in the arc as well where it's him kind of going home and talking to his dead family and then kind of remembering that they're not there. Like those moments where Dart gets, or not where Dart, where Stretchzoid gets sad and like contemplative, genuinely fantastic. It happens again in this issue. He kind of looks up in the sky and he's like, these jobs don't matter ultimately. Stuff like that I think is really good character building for Stretchzoid. It's why I like him as much as I do. Dart doesn't have that shit. Dart is just fucking Mr. Perfect. He's like, oh, what the da. I'm going around just doing all these quips.
Your hatred for Dart is so uncalled for. It's crazy.
He
like
sucks.
genuinely.
I hate him so much.
Crazy. How much you hate him?
He's so annoying.
Oh my gosh.
He is so annoying. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of the issue. Pretty good. I did like it. I think the Dart and Scylla stuff is fine. It's all kind of stuff that we kind of already knew from the end of the last issue. We don't get much more on that front. But I think the Stretchzoid stuff is good. I think the Proximus scene is largely pretty good. And I'm very curious to see what the fuck is going on with that Transformers planet or whatever with the eyes opening. That stuff is cool. It makes me excited to see where the series is going. As it stands, I think this is a better conclusion to an arc than the conclusion of the first arc was. I remember not loving that first conclusion to the first arc, but I think it's a better, more fitting final issue for that arc. I think it's good, and I do think this arc on a whole has been more consistent than that first arc, and I do think it makes me hopeful for where the series is going, especially with Pythona is going to be in the next issue, and then Hot Rod is in the next 2 issues apparently after that. So stuff is kind of coming together in the series. I think it's getting better, and I think this issue is pretty solid.
Yeah, no, this one was pretty good for me. I actually didn't mind Dark in this one. I think he works best when there's not like actual action, honestly, because he's just useless in action. Like the last couple of issues, like specifically, I think it was the last one. He was just like
the last one.
That one, I will say, like I found him annoying in that one, genuinely. But this one, I think he was fine. He does not quip as much as I don't know. I think it's like they're not annoying. Like the whole like I think that's just that it's his character. He jokes. He's not serious. It's fine.
Yeah. But I find that annoying.
It's fine. It's his character, man. Like
the thing is, I think if his jokes were funny, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I don't think they are. I think they're just dumb.
Like he's serious when it counts. Like obviously, when Scylla's about to die, very serious. Now that she's not about to die and she's like leaving or whatever, he's sad about it and he masks that with nothing. I don't know, no emotions. I guess I don't fucking know, man. He's clearly sad, obviously, because he doesn't he's sad that Scylla's leaving or whatever. But like, he knows that she's got to do this thing. He knows he's got to do this other thing, man. And so it's that. Yeah. He's not annoying.
He is
That
annoying. I
much.
hate him.
Most
Fuck
of the
you,
time.
Darich.
He's not annoying.
I hate you.
I really liked the scene with Proximus and the other cadet. Like you said, it made him seem like human when all we've seen him as is like basically this like perfect soldier war machine, like this ruthless killer. So seeing him with that cadet, like genuinely was like it was kind of like touching. And then yeah, so that that I really like that scene. Skuxoid. Honestly, it felt short this time around. I will say that didn't seem
Yeah, it was
that
like 4
long.
pages.
Yeah, it did not seem as long as some of the last couple we've had of Skexoid, so I actually didn't overly mind this one.
Yeah.
It was very short, so I appreciate that. Skexoid, him being sad about it all, being like why am I doing what I'm doing? This is why I hate Skexoid. Screw Skexoid, he's the worst character of the series.
But that's character building. That's a character trait.
It's worse than Dark, who has actually an established character. I don't know.
Oh my god.
It's worse. It's terrible. It's bad.
This is gonna be the debate that kills the podcast. We're gonna get so heated about Darich versus Sketchsoid that we're just gonna scrap the podcast.
I understand. I assume he's gonna bring in like a larger part of this, and I'm dreading it, genuinely. But yeah, I think this one's still pretty good. End of what is this? The second arc, or is this considered the first? I don't know.
Second
right?
Arc, yeah.
Second arc, right? Yeah. So I think this is pretty good. For a second arc ending, I'm definitely more interested in the Solula part. Like after separating, I think I'm gonna be more interested in the Solula part simply because I feel like Dark going back to the that like his side of it though. I don't remember what it's called.
Agoria. I will say though, however, this will probably change your mind. It looks like the dark side of stuff is where Hot Rod is going to be more prevalent.
Oh no, I know that. I do know that. I just think the whole like Zerta thing is very interesting to me simply because I don't know a lot about them. But yeah, so yeah, I think this is genuinely pretty good in my opinion. Dark is fine. Anyway, it's 8.
I'm gonna give it a 7. It's almost an 8. I did like this. I just think the scene between Dark and Solilla was largely stuff that I kind of felt like we had already covered and didn't necessarily need to have it repeated like that. So, yeah.
All right, we're on this one. It is Nice House by the Sea.
All right. Well, Nice House by the Sea. This is issue number 2. It is written by James Tynion IV, and the artist is Alvaro Martinez Bueno. I just gotta say, Sebastian, what a fucking issue. Let's give it up for the Nice House by the Sea, issue number 2. Just really fantastic stuff. Almost my pick of the week.
Oh, really? Okay, I can...
Yeah.
Sometimes when you do it like that, I generally can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
No, I loved this. This was great. I thought this was so good. However, caveat, this is not Nice House by the Sea, issue number 2. In practicality, it is Nice House on the Lake, issue number 13. This has nothing to do with the sea house. It is all literally like there is no character that was introduced in Nice House by the Sea that is in this issue, and they are at the lake house the entire time. It is the entire cast of Nice House on the Lake, and not at all the cast of Nice House by the Sea. So again, like I did last issue, I'm actually gonna throw to you first here, Sebastian, because I'm just curious, like, having not read that series, how the fuck did this play for you?
Okay, so genuinely, I couldn't remember anybody's names from Nice House by the Sea, like the first one.
Yeah.
So going into this one, I was like still kind of like blanking on these characters. I kind of figured that they weren't the same after we saw like these like grave sites and all this stuff. I was like, okay, this definitely isn't the same. Obviously there's no way to just like skip over, like just like randomly like go like super far into the like just like time skip with like nothing else. Like I feel like that just like, wouldn't make sense. So I was kind of like very quickly like, okay, so this is a different house, obviously. It was so much dialogue, genuinely, like holy crap.
Yeah.
To the point where I really don't remember most of what they were talking about. I know the biggest thing about this was the fact that there was a dog there.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Because people like in these houses, people can like they wish for things, right, or whatever.
They write down what they want, and the next day it shows.
Yeah, exactly. It shows up, and so
up on their porch.
Yeah. And so people, what they mentioned that like they've tried, like one dude at least mentions that he's tried to wish for a person before, and it doesn't work. So they just thought they couldn't.
Yeah. So
wish for living things.
For context on that. Yeah, for context on that, that was, I believe, Molly who said that, who her husband did not get invited to the lake house. And then so when she found out that the apocalypse happened and he died, she tried to bring him over. That's what that was referring to.
Okay, yeah. And so I know it doesn't show this, but they mentioned that at some point they talked about wishing for a dog, but nobody wanted, like, nobody tried or something, and then somebody finally tried, and nobody's owning up to it. And so yeah, so that was, they had like kind of like a big argument about it, not an argument per se, but like a discussion about it, really, about the dog and like its consequences for it being here and all this stuff. And I guess they're like their handler, their alien dude. I don't.
Yep.
Like
Walter.
He's gone as well.
Yep, he died.
Um,
Yeah.
Oh, he died. Okay, yeah, he died.
Yeah. In fact, the people of the lake house killed him.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Nice. So yeah, and so that was a big thing, and then it cuts to these other two who I'm telling, I don't remember anybody's names.
It's Nora and Reg.
Okay, yeah, they're outside.
Wait, maybe not. It could be a different. There's a couple points where they split off into groups. It could be Ryan and like Arturo or something.
I don't know. There's like these two people that went outside, and they're discussing, I think, the death of Walter and like the dog.
Yeah, that was Ryan, and one of the others.
Yes, and then I know they had a storm going on. It was getting out of control, and then lightning strikes this like weird rock-looking sculpture thing, and that's when the portal opens, and then that's when we see them walking through the portal, which was the ending of Nice House with the Sea #1, where they meet that other guy.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, I mean, obviously, I wasn't really understanding, not having read Nice House on the Lake, that these were people from that lake house, right? And so when I finally, like, towards the end, when I saw like the portal and I saw that like the same dialogue from Nice House with #1, I was like, okay, so this is everything like how it led up to that point. That, like, it made sense to me in that sense. Obviously, I didn't have a lot of the context, like Walter being dead or whatever, like them having killed him or whatever. Oh, also, I should probably mention the dog is not a dog; it was something else.
So that's the thing. The dog is Walter. Walter's not actually dead. That's Walter.
Okay, yeah, I figured it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it all came full circle in the end, and so yeah, I still don't think I have to have read Nice House on the Lake still.
Okay.
Genuinely, yeah, it all came full circle.
Okay, so from my perspective, having read Nice House on the Lake, I loved this. I thought this was fantastic. I really liked getting to look back in on these characters post Walter and seeing kind of how they're all dealing with everything. And so stuff like, seeing Ryan and whoever the other guy was, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Rick, it could have been Sam, could have been Arturo, I don't remember. But seeing them talk about actually missing Walter, despite all of the shit that went down in that first series, was really interesting. I think that was a really good bit of dialogue. The dog showing up was cool. So that's the thing. Nobody summoned it. It is just Walter. And so, seeing them kind of trying for that was cool and interesting. But for me, when this issue started to really shift was when the storm got out of control, and that one guy saying like, "Hey guys, shit's going real. I'm not controlling the storm right now. This is getting out of control. We should all maybe stay inside right now." That for me is when the tension just started ramping up. And then you have Nora and Reg going outside, and Reg is basically like, hey, there's shit going on. We're the two who helped design this place. We should be discussing what we, like, our parts in building this and what's going on. Like, we should be discussing that. And Nora's kind of very, very much like not responding to that. This is the other thing. I had to check. As I was reading this, I remembered that Walter was still alive. But what I didn't remember, I went and checked through Nice House on the Lake just really quickly. I forgot that Nora does know that Walter's alive. She was part of the whole plot to keep him alive while making it seem to everybody else that he was dead. So I forgot about that, but that did make a lot more sense there. And so that whole conversation was incredibly tense. And then, yeah, having them go out to the structure and seeing it zap in the portal to the Nice House by the Sea open, and then seeing the dog shift into Walter, I was just like, hell yeah, let's fucking go. This is the kind of shit that I love from James Tynion. So just genuinely, I was just blown away by this. The tension ramping up, the twist that it was taking, just fantastic. Like, I get that if you from the perspective of like, I do see how this could be perceived as killing the momentum from the first issue in terms of like we just got this new cast of characters and then bam, we get thrown back to the old cast of characters. I get how that can maybe kind of be seen as killing the momentum. However, I think this backstory was very like fantastic. I think it really helps fill out where the series, the kind of in between gaps that we have had between Nice House on the Lake and Nice House by the Sea. I think it filled that out really nicely. And for me, this just built the momentum. And even though it's only a few of the characters that crossed over to the Nice House by the Sea, I do think like it's going to add this whole new dynamic to it that I'm very excited to see how they explore. And so yeah, I loved this. I'm giving this a 9, almost a 10. I do think the beginning was a little bit less enthralling, but I think as it goes in terms of like, you know, reintroducing people or introducing, in the case of Sebastian, people to these characters, I think it did a good job, and I think it really built some great tension going into the next issue. Yeah, so 9 for me.
This is a tough one for me, genuinely, because I mean, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I really don't remember a lot from this whole issue. Genuinely,
Yeah.
I just remember the big thing being the dog, how it shouldn't have even been there, and then the portal kind of opening. Like, that's the 3 takeaways that I'm getting from this right now. You know, the fact that this was, you know, from the other thing or whatever, like that make like cool and all. You know, I don't get that, you know, nostalgia factor like you do, but like genuinely there was a lot. I just don't remember most of it, so because like this was like, and you know, this isn't like, I know this isn't the issue's fault, but like there was a lot to read this week, and for this to have like a lot that much dialogue and expect like, it's not sticking with me. But I think, you know, for the most part, I think I got the main takeaway. Maybe, I don't know, who knows. Oh man, this is really tough for me to rate. Man, this oh man. All right, 7.
Okay.
No, I like genuinely. I can't bring myself to pull this when I'm genuinely not understanding what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough, I guess.
Like I'm happy to keep reading if you make me do it, but otherwise,
Yeah.
I can't see myself pulling this at all.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Sebastian, but the next week this one pops up, I think we've got even more fucking comics to talk about than this week. So
that's rough.
Okay, well, I'm going to move on to the Sacrificers here. This is the Sacrificers number 11, written by Rick Remender, and the artist is Andre Lima Araujo. This is also, as with Void Rivals, this is the conclusion to the second arc of the series. It's a bit of a bigger gap than with Void Rivals, but this series is coming back in November, so it's actually not that long a wait. And yeah, I think, again, fantastic. Like, really, really great. The indie books this week fucking knocked it out of the park. This one is, again, mostly focusing on Saluna. We don't get any Pigeon in this issue, but we do get a lot of Saluna. It starts off, however, with one of the gods realizing that his wife was killed in the attack on Aquaticus, which then does let us know who that person was. I know we wondered about that. That was kind of a big, like, oh shit. So then this guy's like, well, I fucking want to kill the guy who killed my wife. So it's like bring me this person. And so then we cut to it's a lot more of Saluna, although we also get some stuff with the foreman wanting to find Saluna. Rokos is asking him to, but he wants to find him himself so that he can just kill her. And so then we cut to Saluna kind of bonding with Pigeon's family, in particular his youngest sister. So we do find out here actually that a lot of Pigeon's family did die. Some of his siblings did die. We also wondered about that last issue. But it's his parents are alive and one of his sisters is alive. And there's a very sweet moment where Pigeon's sister asks Saluna if they can be like new sisters. And it's a very nice, like, kind of, you know, sweet moment between the two of them. I think it lands really well. But then in the night, once again, as with the last time Saluna slept, the black goo starts, like, you know, oozing out of her, and it goes, and it's about to kill Pigeon's sister. And I know I theorized, I was like, I would love it if that just killed all of them. I mean, not love it, but I think it would be an interesting direction for the series to go. It almost did, but they're interrupted by the foreman popping up, because essentially the way that Rokos wants to get Saluna back is by demanding every other family gives another sacrifice to them. So the foreman breaks in, coming to get those sacrifices, and essentially takes Pigeon's sister as one of them, because they don't have, that family does not have any other children to sacrifice, so that's the one that the foreman takes. And then the foreman is going to take another some older guy's grandchild, but Saluna then does pulls like a Hunger Games and throws herself in and then asks to be taken in that other person's stead so that she can also keep an eye on Pigeon's sister. However, Pigeon's sister is kind of freaked out by the fact that she almost died from the black ooze, so doesn't really trust Saluna anymore. And so it ends with the foreman leading them all away off to be sacrificed. And so the foreman doesn't know that it's Saluna, by the way. She's got a hood up so that they can't really see her face. But and then also, she's of course physically, visually different from the last time they not even though, because the other thing is like the foreman probably would have seen the shriveled up version of Saluna because he was the one who did that to her. Yeah. So regardless, though, another fantastic issue. This arc has been very strong. It's been interesting to see the differences between Pigeon's arc, this arc, and Saluna's. Because Saluna's has kind of been about it's been humanizing her and kind of showing her the on the ground perspective. But her side of it has also been very much defined by these moments of hope that then just get brutally ripped away. So in issue number 7, you had where she summited the cliff, but then she got pulled off by the goo and infected with it. And then she was going and just kind of having to navigate this city where everybody was just like shitting on her. She just didn't really have any resources. But then she meets Pigeon's family. It's this again this lifting up of hope. And it seems to be going well. And they find the refugee city. And she's befriending Pigeon's sister. But then again, gets taken away from her again when she gets brought back into the foreman's cone of influence and gets kind of put into the sacrificial pool again. Whereas Pigeon has kind of had the opposite. He hasn't had his has mostly just been hopeful. Granted, he might be going too far down the path, but really since the end of issue number 6, he's kind of been on an upward journey, except for the point where he thinks his whole family died. But outside of that, he's just kind of been fulfilling exactly the role and following exactly the path that he wants to. In the letters page, actually, Rick Remender does make mention of the fact that Pigeon might be going too far. So it does make me think that was the intention in that last issue where he killed the god. So I do think the way the series is going is really interesting. The way the pieces are coming together is fantastic. The moment-to-moment stuff and drama and character moments in the series have been incredible as of late. And I think just genuinely, this has become one of the best books on shelves. It's fantastic. I loved it. And this is one of the best issues of the series, I think. And this is one of my favorite issues this week. It was also a contender for pick of the week.
This one was very good, very, very good. I still can't like as good as it was. Genuinely, like this is one of the best ones we've gotten like in a while for me from the Sacrificers. I can't. It still doesn't compare to that. What I think it was number 4, right?
Five.
It's 5. That it really can't compare, but. Genuinely, this one was very, very good. I loved the whole Saluna and Pigeon's little sister. Their their relationship, how it's like, kind of how it like at this point, like it's a little bit ruined-ish with the whole black goo bit, but like how it had been going. I think it was very, very good. Like you said, like it's Saluna's kind of like being like humanized in a sense, and then so also we know why Rocco wants to, like, obviously besides the fact that she's his daughter, we learned that he wants her to take her mom's place as the loon god or whatever, moon god, because he killed her. Rocco's, that's his name. No, that's the
I say
Rocco's,
but that's sun god.
What's the pigeon guy? I forgot his name.
The foreman.
Yeah. I'm still kind of curious as to what his thing is, right? Because like obviously he wants to find Saluna to kill her because otherwise she'll tell Rocco's like what he did. But then like I think he's also kind of on humanity's side in a sense because like he doesn't.
Oh, I do not think he is.
Well, like I don't. It's kind of weird, right? Because when Rocco's told him to like get more sacrifices again, like obviously he was like, I understand he was like trying to like play it off, like cover for himself, being like, oh, these people aren't, they're not gonna like that and whatever, and he's like, I don't care. Obviously, like that he's like trying to act like he normally does in that sense, but like it's kind of weird, right? Because like then like I assume who was the foreman's wife, she's like, you're not seriously gonna do it. And he's like, I have to. Like he kind of seems like he doesn't want to in a sense either. It's like I just don't know what he really wants to do specifically.
I think he just wants to take the power of the gods himself, is what it seems to me based on the previous issues.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like that makes sense with Soluna's thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, another thing? But he didn't mention something. That's why Soluna like confronted him. I don't remember what he said though. Yeah, I'm just probably just forgetting key points here. But yeah, I'm still really, really, really interested in how this is going down. I really like Soluna's. I was kind of like, after reading Pinge's thing, I was kind of scared of how Soluna's was gonna go, but I thought it was gonna be really slow. But no, I really liked her character development in this one.
Yeah.
And yeah, like just the two character developments and how like opposite their paths are going. I think it's very, very good. And I think this is one of the best ones we've gotten so like in a while from the Sacrificers. I love this one, and I'd give it probably I'd honestly give it a 9. Yeah, this was good.
The 9 for me as well. Yeah.
Very good. Frankenstein.
Okay, this is Universal Monsters Frankenstein #1, written by Michael Walsh and drawn by Michael Walsh. So, first off, just want to say, fantastic cover. Probably my favorite of the week, although it is close with Aliens versus Avengers. But really great cover and really great art overall as well.
Yes,
fantastic stuff. This was, I think, another very, very, very good issue. And I do think this, to me, looks like it's on a better path than Creature from the Black Lagoon kind of ended up being. So it starts out with this kid. He's visiting his dad's grave, and then some grave robbers dig him up, and it's Frankenstein doing the grave digging to then use various body parts to make Frankenstein's monster. So he pitched the hands of this kid's dad to do that, and then the kid stows away on the horse-drawn carriage cart thing back to Frankenstein's lab, where he sees the creation of the Frankenstein's monster, and it's just like stunningly like. The art in that whole sequence is just so good. Like it's hard for me to kind of articulate how cool it looks, but it's really fantastic. Especially the scene where you see the lightning like beam down and hit the Frankenstein's monster. It's this glorious like double page spread. So much like vibrant like greens and just the hues and the coloring is just fantastic in this. And the colors, by the way, Tony Murray Griffin, fantastic job on that. And so then we have basically the kid kind of sneaks around and kind of has some encounters with the monster. The monster seemingly does have some affection for the kid. He's kind of like he seems to kind of have a fatherly connection with the kid. He seems very gentle towards him, unintentionally kind of hurting him at one point by like holding his hand too hard, but like not on purpose. And so so we see kind of the monster suffering a little bit and clearly in pain. And then in that conference and in that encounter, when ultimately it inspires the kid to go and try and kill Frankenstein. But before he can do that, he gets dragged back into the shadows by like one of the henchmen. And that's pretty much the issue. I'm not sure. I don't think I really missed anything. This is fantastic. And I think actually the longer I've sat with this, the more I've come to enjoy it because it is kind of simplistic to a degree and kind of sparse. There's kind of a lot of scenes and some of the connective tissue kind of does seem like at points it's kind of jumping from scene to scene to scene to scene. But I do think as a whole, when you look at it, it's a very compelling, I think, issue. And I also think like, again, one thing I've really enjoyed that all of these Universal Monsters books have done so far is they've really distinguished themselves from each other. Even Creature from the Black Lagoon, I feel like, did this where, you had the first one, which was just very much like grotesque, like actual creepy horror with Dracula. Yeah. You had the kind of eerie, like just kind of atmosphere, creepy atmosphere from like the setting in Creature from the Black Lagoon. This one is less a horror in the conventional sense because there is like it is body horror to a degree, absolutely, with the Frankenstein monster. But I think beyond that, the horror of this series I think lies more in the tragedy of Frankenstein's monster and just the existence that he is brought into, and just this existence full of just intense pain. I think that's kind of more the horror side of it. Just the monster itself doesn't seem to be malicious at all. It doesn't seem to be angry. It's just kind of it just exists, and it's not really loving that. And I think that's kind of the deeper horror of this series, that kind of existential, tragic dread that this series is kind of evoking. And so yeah, just like very solid. I think the art again is the highlight for me. I do think it seems like it's kind of keeping in the same vein as the others, where like the monster is not super present physically for a lot of the issue, but his presence is very much felt throughout it regardless. I don't know if that's going to stay the same. He does have like more physical appearances here, I feel, than the other two have had in their first issues. That was like, they'd usually pop up at like the last panel or not at all. So I am curious to see if he'll kind of play a more active role in this series. But regardless, like a really fantastic issue that I found myself liking more and more the more I've thought about it. This has really kind of stuck with me in a way that I didn't necessarily think it would at first. I think this is fantastic. It could honestly, by the end of this, either be my favorite Universal Monster series or tied with it for Dracula. I very much do not think that it will be worse than Creature from the Black Lagoon. I didn't love how that ended. But yeah, fantastic first issue. Really excited to see where this goes. And just another very solid addition to this interconnected series of series.
No, yeah, I think this one was actually, it was a very solid start to the issue. I think it did a good job of portraying, like, especially through the kids' eyes, that like Frankenstein is more of a monster than the actual Frankenstein's monster.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like especially through the kid's eyes, you know, like after meeting the monster and stuff, and like he himself said like Frankenstein is like a monster, and he like goes in and tries to kill them before like getting swifted away by the henchmen or whatever. But like I think it did a good job of like portraying that like how he kind of like did not become attached to the monster, but how he saw the monster as not that scary simply because he knew like I feel like he felt like part of it was his dad, obviously, because then he used the hands from his dad, you know. So like it felt like he might have been his dad, but like knowing it's not, obviously. So I think it did a good job of portraying that. Ultimately, I don't know how it's like specifically going forward with the story specifically. I assume it's just gonna like retell like the actual book, but I'm not too sure. In a sense, I really don't know how this one's gonna work out. Like with Dracula, you could kind of know. With Creature of the Black Lagoon, you definitely knew like what exactly it was trying to like go for with the whole serial killer thing. Obviously, with this, I don't know how the story is gonna go down, specifically. But besides that, like the art was very good, and the story was just it did a very good job of actually telling the story, from like the kids' perspective. So yeah, I really like this one. Actually, great start so far to this series. And so yeah, I'd give this an 8.
I was gonna give it an 8 for a while. I think I'm actually gonna give it a 9 though. I think the more I kind of thought about it, the more I really coming to appreciate what this issue was doing. To your point about where it's going, there's a letter in the back of the issue from the writer and the artist who says that basically he largely kind of follow the main story, but also fill out the gaps in between. So I guess probably pretty similar. All right, and that would bring us into the last issue before our couple of blocks of comics, which is Sebastian's favorite series, Something is Killing the Children, number 40.
It's not going to change anytime soon.
Yeah. This is the official, the last issue of this Road Stories arc, the kind of flashback arc where we see each issue doing a different, adventure or kind of experience from Erica's monster hunting career. Skipping September, but we are getting an issue on October, which is Something is Killing the Children number 0, which is the mission right up to right before the very beginning, which was the slaughter or the Archer's Peak thing rather. But so this is the last issue. Besides that, for a while, presumably. You don't know when the next one is. This series does tend to take a bit of a break between arcs. But so basically, first of all, this is my pick of the week. Second month in a row where that is the case. And I do think that this is the best issue of this arc. And the best issue in quite some time, in fact. And I loved the last issue. I gave it a 10. But I do think this is better. It starts out with a bit of a training sequence where Jessica is kind of training Erica a little bit and talking about using guns and how that is sometimes more effective than using knives and stuff, which is Erica's preferred method of taking out monsters. That does become thematically very relevant later in the story. And then it cuts to, most of this issue is kind of told in media res where Erica is talking to Aaron before he died and kind of explaining the events of this particular monster hunt, where she went to go and kill this monster. It was born from this girl who essentially this is not revealed until later, but like she was afraid of her dad, and that fear is what brought this monster out. And so Erica goes to try to handle it, and so the girl that she was trying to help with this wants to come along and help kill the monster, and her dad has a big locker of guns that she is going to try and use to come with Erica and kill this monster with her. And so we see a little bit. We see how Erica was having trouble kind of capturing this monster until she got it into a corner. At which point the kid tried to shoot the monster and kill it, but she hadn't taken off the safety, so it didn't fire. And we see her kind of fiddling with it, and it's this genuinely horrifying sequence as you see her point the gun up to her face as she's trying to like look into the barrel to see what's going on, and you just kind of what's happening. In the next issue or the next page is this like it's simple, but it's so effective. It's just this full page spread of Erica's face with just the letters BAM outlined in like this blood red kind of color, and it's genuinely, it's such a shocking, like horrifying moment, again really like giving more vulnerability to Erica as well, because you see her reaction, like the just absolute horror and terror on there as that is happening. And so she kills the monster and went back and almost just fucking killed the dad as well. She didn't end up doing that, but she did go back and think about that. And then you have the point, because at this point I was like, okay, that's obviously like a horrifying thing to see. Obviously, like if I saw that, it would fuck me up. But Erica at the same time has seen a lot of fucked up, like horrifying shit as part of her job hunting these monsters. So I was like, obviously I'm sure it would affect her on some point, but she was like, and obviously of course she's also like more in tune with her emotions than most of the other hunters are. And she actually is one of the few that cares about people. But still, I was like, I do think, like, we've seen how also hardened she is to this stuff. And so I was wondering, like, well, okay, what sets this apart from all the other stuff that she has certainly seen? And we get the like last page reveal that this kid's name was Jessica. Again, just tying it back to when we still don't know what happened to Erica's trainer, Jessica. But we know that Erica blames herself, or at least I think we know that. And so seeing that again, just the final fucking gut punch of that reveal just was so effective. The way this issue was paced, the way the reveals just kept kind of unfolding, and the horror just kept unfolding. You just saw more and more stuff just kind of keep on being rolled out, was genuinely just so gripping and just like so, again, like it was so tension building, and you knew what was going to happen. It was like a train wreck that you kind of couldn't look away from. You just saw all the moments coming, and then that last reveal, like it just all came together so perfectly. So this is what I want this series to be. Like I see stuff like this and I'm like, it's so clear that this series is still capable of these incredible issues. By the way, I don't think I even mentioned the creative team. It's James Tinney in the fourth and Werther Dell'Edera as always, but just to mention that. But so like it's frustrating with this series because we see that it can have this just amazing, emotionally devastating, issues and arcs. But I just don't think the present day arcs have been there since the Archer's Peach stuff. And so it's frustrating to see the some of the series and the arcs not be all that interesting or engaging or compelling, when we can see that so clearly there is still so much steam left in this, and there's still such incredible stories this series has left to tell. So regardless of all that though, this issue, phenomenal. My pick of the week by far. Just a really just incredible issue.
Yes. So to no surprise, this is also my pick of the week. To no surprise to anybody, really. But genuinely, this issue was like I really have no words to how good this was. First of all, I really like this cover, especially after you read the issue. It really just stands out to me, this cover. And man, what can I say about this one? Yeah, just the the beginning with Jessica training Erica with the guns and stuff, and her mentioning the fact that the monsters they hunt aren't the only monsters that are in the world. And so for it to just for that specific line to basically come back full circle towards the end, where we learn when just Erica finally tells us that the whole fear, the reason the child was fearful was because of her father and all that stuff, and for her to go back with that same gun, I think it was the same gun at least, almost shoot and kill the father as well. It's just shows how much it
these things really mess with her, especially this one, obviously, because the name thing. And another thing that like for me like truly like also like kind of messed her up was like I will mention this real quick before that. The art of when the whole the shot, like the shot happened, that was, like you said, just like insane art. Just that whole, just the blood red and Erica's face and all of that. But then the fact that she mentioned also is that she was still alive after that. And the thing that truly did her off was the fact that her fear was so high that the monster like couldn't resist and actually went and ended up like eating her, or at least bits of her.
And that's what gave her enough time for her to actually
exactly
kill it.
Like that. Also at that point, it's just like you gotta take that into account, to like how much more that just messes her up. The fact that this kid is still feeling all of that like pain and like just experiencing all of these things right as she's like dying essentially, and just like literally everything about it, just like because when we first met Aaron in the first arc, we truly thought he was like just in like complete ass to Erica, just like the rest of this organization and stuff. But like these road stories have kind of shown that like he does truly care for Erica, just in a very roundabout way, honestly. And especially with you see it a lot in this one specifically, to the point where it's kind of sad for me at this point, like that he actually died, honestly.
Well, and he kind of sacrificed himself for her as well. In that,
he definitely did. But like to the point where it's like it didn't feel like that impactful, honestly. But going back and reading these, I'm just like, dang, like she, like that, it must have definitely hurt her to an extent, honestly. That he is gone as well now. And just everything about this issue I just absolutely loved. And like, oh my goodness, to no surprise, but I'd easily give this 10, honestly more. Like it was great. Just everything about it was amazing.
10 for me as well.
Since Absolute Power is technically the event and the X-Men were just making a blog, let's just do X-Men first.
Okay. Let's start with NYX here.
NYX.
This is NYX number 2, written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, with the artist being Francesco Mortarino. So I would say lukewarm on the first issue. I generally thought it was pretty solid, but not amazing. This issue I do think is a little bit better. Maybe not by much, but I do think this works a little bit more. This is the kind of the issue that's focused on Laura Kinney, the Wolverine. So we did immediately, like, I think the introduction to her in this issue is very cool. And while that suit on the cover looks like shit, I think it works within the issue. It looks weird on the cover, though. I don't know what's going on there. But
really?
regardless,
You like it?
Not on the cover. I like it in the issue, but not on the cover. It's just the collar, I think, is weird. Something about the collar is just, Regardless, though, so she's looking for information about this this basically haven for mutants. And so she ends up going to find it, and kind of to gain trust within the organization with this one guy in particular, who's kind of the mutant face of this haven for all these mutants. She goes on like on a mission to kind of rob a facility and get some tech and stuff. This ultimately gets the attention of the main higher up of the organization, who it turns out is Mojo. And I will say, typically, I find Mojo to be insufferable. I do not like him. I think he's annoying. I'm not a fan of Mojo, but here I think he works pretty well, actually. He's genuinely like very creepy and just kind of like disturbing. The way he's drawn definitely factors into that, but I think he's actually menacing here. So he has a bit of a fight with Laura, and then he actually wins. She has to retreat because he kind of fucks her up pretty badly. And then she ultimately goes to Miss Marvel and the other mutants who have now kind of collectively grouped up. So Sophie Cuckoo and Anole and Prodigy as well, but he's kind of not there in that scene, I don't think. And she essentially kind of links up with them and is like, all right, I'll be part of this team and kind of join up with them, just like I can do some helpful stuff there. So that's kind of the issue, I think, broad strokes. And I think generally, like I said, not amazing still, I don't think, but I do think that and actually, it does kind of take a break from the main plot that was set up in issue number 1. It does some kind of separate stuff. But while I don't normally like Mojo, I do think it works here. I think the this kind of underground club of mutants in New York City. I think thematically works with the series as well. And I do think the fight with Mojo was cool. I think it worked well. I think Laura is good in this issue. And just kind of a lot of that stuff worked for me in ways that I was not necessarily expecting it to. Because again, I really don't like Mojo, but I do think it works well here. I think it was cool and creepy. And just generally, like, I don't know much to say on it besides that. I think it's a solid issue, about on par with the first one, I think, and does make me, fairly confident that this series will be at least a solid one overall when it eventually wraps up.
Yeah, I would say I didn't like this one quite as much as the first one, and that's like I did like the beginning where Laura was like where she first came in. I didn't like the middle part where she was like quote unquote undercover with the what was his name, Local or something.
I kind
like
of
that.
agree. Yeah.
I really disliked. That whole bit part. I really disliked.
I kind of agree. Yeah.
I wasn't enjoying reading up until Mojo came in. Like, this is my first. I know Mojo. I know of Mojo. This is my first time reading anything with him. I'm pretty sure.
He's usually way more annoying than he is here.
No, yeah, exactly. Like, I know typically what he does, so I know. I figured he can be annoying, but like the way he is drawn in this one, I really like the way he is drawn and the way he is presented in this. And he definitely looks like menacing, and just like what he does to Laura as well, to the point where she literally herself is like, I'm afraid. And that's why she kind of like decides to go, like, not like that's not the only reason, but like partially it kind of is factors into the reason why she decides to like join with Miss Marvel towards the end. Is simply like the fact that like she herself was like, I'm afraid and I can't do this alone. Yeah, for me, like my biggest, like the only negative thing I have to say about that is just that middle part with her and Local and all this missions she had to do to meet Mr. Friend, which is the
Mojo,
front to Mojo. But yeah, besides that middle part, I liked this issue, so I'd give it a 7. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm also gonna give it a 7. Okay, the next one, let's do X-Force next.
X-Force.
This is X-Force number 2, written by Jeffrey Thorne, with the artist being Marcus Toe, rather. So first of all, quick thing here. Technically, the cover is not false advertising. However, that Black Panther on the cover is very clearly in T'Challa's costume, and T'Challa is not in this issue. They fight a Black Panther, kind of, but not really. So you were not a big fan of the last issue. Out of curiosity, what do you think on this one?
I actually didn't mind this one.
Okay.
I think they did a much better job of kind of explaining what was going on specifically, like in the present, rather than Forge. For me, last issue made no sense with the whole like all the things that he had. Like I didn't understand it at all.
He has that orb, Sebastian. He has that orb.
He ponders the orb. He pondered the orb quite a lot in this one.
He pondered the orb. Yeah.
But yeah, just the way, I think it was just because who was it that was like kind of the forefront of this one? It wasn't Forge.
It was Sage mostly,
Sage,
and then Surge gets a bit of it towards the end as well. But
yeah, but it was mostly Sage, and the way she was explaining how what was going on, like, to me, made a lot of sense. So yeah,
I mean, I like Sage as a character, so I think this issue did. I like seeing her take the forefront of this. It does mean that most of the other characters get shafted. Forge gets a little bit, but like Captain Britain, Ascani, and Tank in particular get fuck all to do in this issue.
Yeah.
Surge gets a little bit. Essentially, yeah, they go to Wakanda, and when they get there, they all change into like different versions of themselves. They get kind of changed into like how they would look if they were way back in the past. Because essentially, this person in Wakanda kind of split off because he felt like humanity had kind of failed, and Wakanda had just been watching. So he's like, I'm gonna change all the world so that it's back in time, and then just like kind of have Wakanda rule over everybody, and then like bring humanity up to a better level with that. And he's using magic to do this. And so with Sage and Forge being very technologically oriented characters, it's kind of a magic versus science kind of thing. And ultimately, Sage is able to kind of disable the device that that is like causing the change spell to continue to wash out. She's able to go and kind of figure out a solution for it. She manages to convert Surge back to her normal self, and then manages to give the goggles to Surge, because she's kind of feeling overloaded because she just doesn't really mix well with magic, and so it's very overwhelming for Sage. So she gets Surge to go and take her goggles that have the solution on it to Forge, and then he, using the orb, is able to do a big tech push that kind of just wipes out the spell, because when you're trying to change technology and reality with magic on a scale that large, it means that it's very easy to counteract it with technology. And so Forge is able to push that back, and then they leave Wakanda. And the reason that Forge and Sage didn't get changed, because everybody else changed except for them, but Forge, it's because he had the orb on him that he didn't change, and then it was Sage's mutation that allowed her to not change.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they're like, all right, we got to go to Cambodia, because there's a crack there and Nuclear is stampeding, and that's the end of the issue. So I will say, like, I did think this was a little bit better than the first issue, but not by a huge margin for me. I do think, like, the premise, I think, is about on par. I think the way it plays out here is a little bit better. Mostly because I think the Deadpool solution in the last issue was a little bit, I didn't love that.
Yeah, no.
But I do think that the solution here is fine, and I do like the focus on Sage. I hope we get more play from the other characters, because they haven't had much right now, even in the first issue, except for Forge and Sage. So I do hope we get kind of more of those guys in upcoming issues. I'm not super, like, confident about the quality of the next issue. I do not have any affection for Nuclear, so that I don't really care about. Issue number 4 has Man-Thing. I am excited for that. You know how I love a Man-Thing appearance.
He does love a Man-Thing appearance.
Yeah. But, I think the resolution was fine in this, but ultimately, I do think also the fact that they kind of were being misleading on the cover with Black Panther was a little bit disappointing. Stuff like that just kind of did make me drop the score a little bit. I do think, like, some of that bait and switch stuff was not great. And I don't think the story was amazing. Like, it was fine, but I still don't think it was amazing. So, I don't know. I definitely don't hate this series. It's not my least favorite X book right now, I don't think. But this one didn't, like, immediately turn me around and make me really invested in the series either. Although I do still think there is some decent potential for this.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll say it. Yeah, I definitely like this one a lot better than the first one, especially the ending. That whole Deadpool bit with the ending, I did not. It was just not satisfying at all to me. And then, yeah, the whole, man, this one was close to getting the rule, though. This one was close to getting the rule, but like technically, like it's like technicalities right here, like, ooh, man. Yeah, this one, like, the whole like twist on who the Black Panther actually was and stuff, like, that's well and fine, honestly. Like, it's a bit disappointing, honestly, because it would have been like it would have been nice to see, like, the actual, like, X-Force versus the actual Black Panther,
right?
I think that that could have made for a good story, but, like, well and fine, whatever.
He's too busy fighting aliens in space in the
exactly,
future or something.
Exactly. But yeah, I think this one was well and fine. Most of the X-Force, the team, got shafted in this one. Like I said already, like, Sage kind of explaining the what happened, what's going on with, why everything's, like, why their entire team is changing, and what's happening to her specifically. And I think she did, like, a well enough job explaining it to the point where it, like, it makes enough sense to, like, for you to follow along. And yeah, I think, like I said, I think this one was fine. I'm genuinely, I can tell you, I'm not looking forward to the next one. I have no idea who Nuclear is, but it at this point, it's just a big guy, and it just reminds me of the first issue, and so I'm just not looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, I'd give this one. I give the last one, I think, a 6. I give this one a 5. Wow. Okay. I'd honestly give this one a 7.
Okay. I think I'm gonna give this one a 6. It's close to a 7 for me, but it didn't quite get there. But I do think it's better than the first one. Yeah. Okay, so for the next and final X-Men issue of the week, we have X-Men number 3, written by Jed MacKay, and the artist is Ryan Stegman. And can I just say, fucking finally, Thank God. This issue's good, Sebastian. This issue's good.
This one is. I liked this one.
Yeah. We didn't talk about X-Men #2, but I didn't like X-Men #2, like at all. I thought it was bad. Maybe not bad, but I think it was not very good. And I was worried because it didn't really feel like there was any direction or momentum building in this series. Like technically they had set up some minor plot threads, but they didn't really like make themselves felt in a significant way. This one, however, is really solid. I think it does like give me some actual concrete of what this series might be trying to kind of do. First of all, actually the first thing we get in that regard is Scott Cyclops is arguing with Rogue on the phone. And basically, I will say, to be fair, when I saw that and the caption box says like, oh, check out Uncanny X-Men #2 in a couple weeks for the other half of the conversation, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. 'Cause that made me immediately, that made me wish I was reading that series and not this one. But that did iron itself out by the end, I think. But essentially, Rogue is planning to move on Greymalkin and free some of the mutants. And so Scott's like, well, we gotta move up our plans as well to kind of try and make sure that doesn't get out of hand. So we also have, so it's mostly, it's kind of split between two things, right? We have the one part of the issue is Scott talking to this one guy named Lundqvist. And basically, it's a very antagonistic relationship. He's a government dude, this Lundqvist guy. And Scott is kind of having this confrontation with him, where again, like, it's Lundqvist basically being like, okay, the X-Men need to not operate outside of Alaska. You guys freaked everybody out in San Francisco last time. Also, like, it's because of this, we now know that mutants' powers are activating much later in some people, and that's freaking people out. So you need to stay in Alaska and not come out here. And Scott's like, fuck all of you. Do you guys remember Krakoa? Because I can fucking just destroy all of you guys. Krakoa was a disaster, and Orchis did all of that with the sanction of the U.S. government. So fuck all of you. I'm gonna take my team where I want to go, essentially. And again, immediately, I was like, thank fuck. This book is mentioning Krakoa. It's not much, but this I'm fine with. Like, at least it's clear that the characters still know about and remember and care about Krakoa. Like, that for me, I was like, thank you. Finally, this book addressed it. Even if they don't address it again, I'm like, finally, we got there. Scott has made his feelings known about the dissolution of Krakoa. I was very happy to see that. The other part of this issue is some of Lundqvist's people go and invade the X-Men's base in Alaska to try and steal Cerebro. And then it doesn't work ultimately.
Not steal it.
Oh, was it destroyed? Okay. They go there. They have kind of a bit of a conversation with the X-Men that are still there. Mostly Temper. This is kind of the Temper showcase issue outside of the Scott stuff in that diner. But so, Temper kind of sends them back. I think, like, the action is fine. Honestly, that's definitely the part of the issue I was least interested in. I didn't think that part was amazing, but it was fine. And I appreciate the efforts to give Temper some more time in the spotlight. I actually think she has a very good conversation with Magneto about Krakoa and her place in it, and how she was, banished to the pit, and how kind of, that how that affects her feelings of the whole thing. So that conversation with Magneto was very good, I think. But her action beats just didn't really do much for me. They were fine, but I didn't really care ultimately. But yeah, so ultimately, like, this book, this issue kind of reaffirmed my faith in this series and made me more engaged in where it's going. Because after last issue did drop post Uncanny X-Men #1. And I was like ready to write the book off. I was still going to read it, but I was like, man, fuck this. This is like, especially like a week after Uncanny, it was just such a disappointment and a downgrade to me. This one, I think, does lift it back up. It gives some momentum and direction. It's a little bit of a quieter issue. It's mostly, there's a big, like half of it is just dedicated to character stuff with Scott. But I really appreciated that, and seeing him mention Krakoa and everything, and seeing how that builds up, and that whole conversation between him and Lundqvist, I just thought was very solid. So I liked this issue quite a bit. I'm so happy to say that, because I was really not feeling the last issue. And next issue sounds kind of bullshit, actually. Next issue is like Juggernaut and the X-Men, but a lot of Juggernaut focus, fights an influencer, and I'm like, I don't know about that. That sounds not very good. But overall, I am mostly back on board with the series, and I'm very happy to say that.
Yeah, I really like this issue. This one was very good. So I mean, specifically, like, the whole Scott, like, obviously the Scott diner, like, that whole bit was very, very, very good. Just the way he handled the whole conversation about it, and then how it all came to be towards the end with like him returning the soldiers or whatever, knowing what was going on and him still keeping us cool for the most, like obviously for the most part in the diner, But yeah, just the fact that like he can basically go to war with the well, like not even the government, just the country of America and basically win because of everything that they have done, to against just him and them in general. And then the conversation with Magneto with Temper was very good as well, basically saying that like she really does not care about Krakoa at all, essentially. Like she knows that like I can't remember I can't remember if she mentioned Hank in that conversation.
She did, yeah.
Right? She did. Okay, yeah, and basically how like they miss it and stuff like that, but she could just really care less about it simply because of her, experience in Krakoa.
And Hank, by the way, was not even fucking there. It was evil Hank the whole time, which is a different version of Hank. So
yeah, I didn't know about that one, but and basically how it's Magneto's fault as well, because he put her in that pit because she broke their one rule apparently, which was to not kill anybody.
Well, they had 3 rules, but that's the one that she broke.
Well, one of the rule that she broke was to not kill anybody, and so that's why he had to do what he did essentially. And so the action scenes, they were like they weren't anything to like be like, oh my god, that was amazing or whatever, but like it was just like, okay, I did like the Temper one genuinely, just to see like how like it made her seem like, especially after that whole conversation with Magneto, to me it seemed that much more impactful, that whole conversation, that whole like in that Cerebro room. I don't know why, just like after that Magneto talk, it just felt all the more impactful. And then just everything about it, the diner scene and the Temper scenes between that, I really enjoyed this issue. To comment real quickly on the second one, I thought it was fine. I don't know, I don't really have a lot to say on that one really either. It was ultimately kind of dumb, kind of pointless. So but we'll see. This one, I will probably give. Honestly, I'm gonna give this one an 8.
I'm also gonna give this one an 8. Yeah, 8 for me as well. All right, that brings us to the Absolute Power block of the episode, starting with Absolute Power Origins number 2, written by John Ridley, with the artist being Alitha Martinez. So this issue, this is, as the cover says, the rise of the Suicide Squad. Essentially, it starts out with Waller talking to this one guy who has a bomb in his chest. That's like he kind of signed up for some like experimentation with metahuman stuff. Got a bomb implanted in his chest. His name was Cyclotron, and that's kind of his whole thing. He's got a bomb in his chest. Yeah. So then Waller recruits a whole bunch of other people, including Lobo. Lobo's kind of the main one that is significant, to go and do something. I don't remember what.
It was to like invade this. It was to invade like Russia essentially, but Lobo called it something else. I don't remember exactly. And they had to like basically steal like, I think it was like called like the God Machine or something like that.
Oh yeah. To basically make a whole bunch of other metahumans, I think. So she had made an army of metas. And so they go there. When they're there, Cyclotron is like, hey, fuck Waller. Let's just all not do what she wants and just go and like take over the world with all our fantastic powers. And Waller gives the order to Lobo to kill him, which he does. And then Cyclotron explodes, taking out the entire facility. And then Waller is able to go in, and she gets the remains of Cyclotron's body, and that's where she gets the idea for the brain bombs. Then after this mission, she went to the president. She's like, we need to just make sure that we can just blow them up if they don't go through with the mission. And that's kind of how the Suicide Squad starts, and that's kind of the issue broadly. So generally, I think a very solid issue. I think John Ridley has a good handle on her voice. I think it's just a very solid also origin for the Suicide Squad and how that whole project even started in the first place. I think it was interesting. I think the team lineup was so obscure that I kind of like it, because I just love weird obscure teams like this, except for Lobo obviously. And I just think it was a solid issue. I think this series has been a very solid tie-in so far. Next up is apparently she's going to be fighting Batman in the next one, and yeah, just very solid issue, I think.
No, yeah, I didn't mind this one at all. It was kind of nice to see the like origins of the Suicide Squad, like the original Suicide Squad, and how that like essentially failed miserably, and how that brought about the idea to bring the brain bombs into play, basically as a different way to control these, villains. And yeah, just the whole like conversation with the president, kind of about like how she's lying to everybody. And she mentions how she lied earlier to her daughter about not becoming a monster, because like to fight the masks you have to become a monster or something like that.
Yeah.
And so just to basically see her, just how she goes from like the sweet, like not sweet, but like this like mother figure to
very
like
family oriented.
Yeah, and to how she's becoming like the Amanda Waller that we know at this point. Just kind of like not specifically her downfall, but just her character change so drastically. And so yeah, it was interesting to see how she came up with the idea of the brain bombs. Simply, it's all designed based off of the same design as the cyclotron bomb. And so yeah, it was interesting to read and learn about all this origin stuff. So yeah, issue as a whole, I don't know, I'd probably give it I mean, it was fine. I'd probably give it like a 7, honestly.
Yeah, I'm feeling a 7 as well. Yeah. Okay, that would bring us to the next one, which is Absolute Power Task Force 7, number 5. This one is written by Alex Packnadel. The artist is Pete Woods. So we basically have in this issue, it's mostly just a big fight between the Flash Amazo robot, Velocity, and then Barry Allen, the Flash himself. They're doing a big race.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is kind of based around the fact that Velocity wants to learn how to phase through stuff like Barry can. And so we kind of see some of his memories of like Barry teaching Wally how to do it and how Barry himself learned to do it. And so essentially, like, Velocity figures out that the way to do it is to have something on the other side that you really want to do, or that you really are like passionate about. You're something that you're really trying to achieve. And in this case, for Velocity, like for Barry, it was Iris, but for Velocity, it's just he wants to just catch up to Barry. So he manages to Barry lures him into the Speed Force and kind of traps him there for a little bit. But then once Velocity figures that out, he's able to phase out of the Speed Force. And then he's like, you know what? I could catch Barry right now, but I'm just going to let this race like kind of play out because I've got a lot to learn from him. So again, kind of showing the effects that these powers and just the knowledge that these Amazons are learning is then changing how they perceive things and how they look at things, and kind of, perhaps even changing their motivations and their allegiances throughout this whole thing. So then there's also the ending part where Steve is still at Gamora Island. And he's kind of spying on Waller a little bit. And then from a portal, presumably from another universe, out steps Donna Troy from another universe who has made an alliance with Waller and a whole bunch of other people as well. And that's where the issue ends. So again, like, very solid. This series, I had like no expectations from Task Force 7. And just genuinely, it's managed to be very solid. I have not disliked a single issue. I think they've all been at least good. And, I like that each one is focusing on a different Amazo. I like how we see different heroes dealing with it. I like how they're all done by different creative teams. It gives this, unique flair and feel to each issue. I think the Flash stuff here is written very authentically. I think it works very well. I really I think the way that Velocity is kind of, puzzling things out and figuring out how to phase and everything is very interesting. I like the character beat with Barry and Iris that happens here. And I'm very intrigued by what is going on with Donna and everything in the Gamora Island area. So very solid issue as well. I think it's just a very good, just solid superhero tie-in that is not essential certainly by any means, but I think it's fleshing out the Amazos in a really interesting way and contextualizing their role in all of this in a way that I find just to be very cool, and I'm enjoying the series. So yeah, I think this is another just solid issue of the series.
No, yeah, I actually genuinely like this one. I like the detail that when Velocity runs at like as fast as Barry and stuff, it's basically like with him being a robot and all that junk, like with how fast he runs, he basically destroys everything he runs through.
Yeah.
Like, simply because of the fact, I'm assuming because of the fact that he's like made of metal and he's so heavy, and so him going that fast, like it destroys everything in his path, which is very different from obviously the rest of the speedsters that we know of. And so, but yeah, I think this one was very good. I like the whole like velocity going through like the memories of the other speedsters and stuff, and how he got like trapped in the actual Speed Force, like Barry traps him in there, and how he managed to escape was by looking through the memories and all that stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think this one was very good. I think this looking back at like the motivations of like learning how to phase and all that, and like seeing the Amazing Robber like think through it and all that, and yeah, I like this one. This was pretty good. This one was pretty good. I think Velocity seems to be more in handle of his like thoughts than some of the other Amazing robots.
Yeah,
like,
he's not kind of questioning stuff as much as Jadestone is.
Yeah, and then in terms of, I think it was Depth Charge was the one that was just like weird. I don't remember if it was that one or if it was the
I thought that was the Superman
Kryptonian
one.
It was the Superman one. Yeah.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, that one was just weird. I probably have bad memories of that one too, because I remember the beginning of this event was just super out of whack, super out of.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this one was pretty good. I'd probably give it a 7 as well, though. Yeah, 7.
I think I'm gonna give it an 8. It is a low 8. It could be a 7, but I did like this one, and I think it was just good enough for me to give it an 8. I think.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, and that would bring us into the final issue of the episode, Green Arrow number 15, written by Joshua Williamson, with the artist being Amanke Nahuelpan. So this is, I believe, basically the second to last issue of Joshua Williamson's Green Arrow run. Yes. Technically, he is writing issue number 350 as well, which is the one directly after Absolute Power. So technically, there's 2 more issues. Actually, you know what? There just are 2 more issues after this, actually, and then there's an annual as well, which he's also writing. But regardless, I have felt recently that this run hasn't really been doing it for me. I don't know, like, it's been fine, but I think the second arc closed out in a kind of strange way. And the Absolute Power stuff has been good enough, but it is ultimately event tie-in stuff, which typically I find it's very rare that stuff is like amazing. But I do think this is a very solid issue. I think this is a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, of course, like the run's almost over, so it's not going to really have much steam left in it after this. Although there is a new writer taking over with issue number 18 in November. But as far as the plot of this issue goes, essentially, Ollie has a box with some sort of device in it. It was given to him by Martian Manhunter. He had kind of buried it for a while, so he goes and retrieves it at the start of the issue. Then we have most of the rest of the issue is the rest of the Arrow family still trying to kind of get Professor Ivo so that he can help them disable the Amazo robots. And so we have particularly in this one, they land after they kind of parachute down to the desert or whatever, and they're pursued by the Tomorrow Woman, who they managed to kind of talk her down because she used to be kind of on the I believe the JSA or the JLA. And so after that, Bright, Waller's one of Waller's people, comes and snatches Professor Ivo. So the rest of them pursue in their jet while Roy's ex-wife and daughter are on the ship. They snuck on there, and they're trying to kind of sneak Ivo out of there. However, Ivo just makes Roy's ex, I believe, I don't know, is she? Fuck, who is she? Which one is she?
That one is Cheshire, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or Jade?
I think it's Jade. I think Leon is his daughter. Regardless, his ex-wife, Ivo is like, hey, you can just like get me out of here. And so she accepts the deal to just kind of take him away from both Bright and the Arrow family. And then but then Bright shows up and is like, hey, you're not gonna take him. So they have kind of a bit of a scuffle. And then the rest of the Arrow family gets on top of the plane. They kind of Arrow like zip line over there, bow zip line over there. They're fighting some just kind of generic people, and then Bright pops up and is like, hey, to Roy, he's like, I've got your ex-wife, I've got your daughter, I will tear one of them apart in front of you, presumably the other one will live. But Roy's ex-wife manages to escape the clutches of Bright. So then right as Bright is going to like kill Roy's daughter, then Oliver shows up and is about to throw down with Bright. So that's the issue in a nutshell. And I do think it is the best issue for a while. I think it's probably the best of the Absolute Power tie-ins. I like the kind of action sequence of the plane chase. You know, I think the Tomorrow Woman stuff was fine. Not kind of amazing, but it also didn't take up that much page time, so that's probably part of the reason for that. You know, I'm curious about what the box Ollie is holding. At first I thought it was a mother box, but I don't think it is.
No, he opened it, like...
He opens it, right, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm excited for Bright versus Ollie. It's good to see Ollie kind of back in action. Presumably he is kind of about to betray Waller, and so I'm curious to kind of see how that goes. And, yeah, I think the art's also very good. The art is very good in this as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't have much to say on it besides that. It's a pretty straightforward, kind of simple story. I think it's pretty solid, though. I think it's one of the better issues we've had recently, and not too bad at all.
Yeah, I also don't have too much to say on it. Besides the fact that I actually enjoy this one. I think it's one of the better ones we've gotten so far recently, from this Green Arrow family things, like without Oliver specifically in it. And yeah, it's nice to see Oliver back, and I'm not sure if he's gonna fully betray Waller quite yet. I mean, he did call, you know, like after he dug up the treasure, he did call Bright back, and the only reason he actually went after Bright is because Bright left and he knew something was wrong. And so yeah, so I'm not too sure about like if him shooting Bright means like he is gonna do it, or if he's just doing it just to say, you know, obviously to save his granddaughter.
I think he will, mostly because the next issue of Green Arrow comes out a week before the last issue of Absolute Power. So
that's fair. That is fair.
Yeah.
That is true. So, well, yeah. Then in that case, yeah. But it's like we knew he wasn't fully betraying them, that he was doing some undercover work, and I hope they go more deeper into what exactly he was doing, and you know. But yeah, I think this one was a solid issue. I don't know if I can justify giving it an 8 or a 7. Yeah, I'm going with 7 again still, though.
I'm going 7 as well. Yeah, it's close to an 8 for me, but I think it just I think it was a little bit too erratic and kind of jumping around in points to the point where I can't quite give it an 8, but not too far away from one, I don't think. Okay. And that would wrap it up for this episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics. But the next week, it is definitely a much lighter week in terms of volume, but there is, as always, still some stuff to talk about, including the next core issue of Absolute Power. I'm really excited for this. I think this series has been very good, and this event has been very good, and the core series has been fantastic, I think, right now so far. So that's cool. Also, a tie-in with Batman 152. Whatever. It's fine. This series is fine. This tie-in has been fine. Whatever. Birds of Prey number 13. I almost thought about dropping this issue, but I am going to give it this issue to see if it can close out the arc well, and then I probably will check out the start of the next arc, because I do want to like this series more, but I've been kind of feeling fatigued with it a little bit lately. Daredevil number 13. Great cliffhanger last issue. Genuinely, such good concepts. I really want to like this book. I hope I like this issue, but I am kind of... I don't know. I think the execution of the series is pretty iffy. The next core X-Men series is next week, also with Exceptional X-Men number 1. This is the team that has Emma Frost and Kate Pryde on it. I like those two characters a lot. I don't know about the rest of the lineup, and I don't know about the creative team. The next one, Immortal Thor number 15 is also there. Pumped as fuck for this one. I like the ending of the last issue, and I do think the way it's going now, it's kind of going back to the Enchantress stuff in this issue, it seems, which I really fucking love. So I'm very excited for this one. Incredible Hulk, number 16, closing out the origin of Eldest. Fine, good enough. This series is pretty solid. We have a new series from Boom Studios, written and drawn by Jeff Lemire, who I love, called Minor Arcana. I don't know much about this, besides that it's probably like a magic-based book. Very much looking forward to it, though. I think it could be very good, and Jeff Lemire is a great writer. Next Moon Knight, next Infinity Watch chapter is Moon Knight Annual next week. Whatever. I don't care, honestly. It will probably be fine, but I'm not excited for that particularly. The next issue of Rook Exodus as well. I don't think we got an issue of Rook in August. I'm just going to double check that. No, we did not. So, it's first issue in a little over a month. And, great series. I'm very excited for that one as well. And then Scarlet and the Ultimates, both fantastic. Well, Ultimates more so than Scarlet, I think, but they're both very solid series in my opinion. So excited for both of those as well. Anything on your end that you would like to shout out?
The Dawn Runner number 5.
Well, anyway, yeah, thank you everybody, as always, for watching or listening and bearing with us through this massive episode. If you enjoyed the episode and you're on YouTube, you can, of course, like the video. You can also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of our videos. And you can also hit the bell notification if you want to be notified when we post new videos so that you do not miss an episode of this podcast. You can also leave us a comment. Let us know what some of your favorite comics of the week are, what some of the stuff you're looking forward to coming up is, and what some of the stuff that maybe we're not reading that we should be reading that is very good. And then you can also get in contact with us at our email address, which is earthsmightiestcomicspod@gmail.com. That is all one word. And you can also follow the show over on Spotify if you're listening over there so that you do not miss any episodes over there. So yeah, thank you again, everybody, as always, for watching or listening. We appreciate it, and we will see you in the next episode.
Goodbye.